Welcome to the HBTVS Podcast. I'm your host, William, and joined today will be Derek.
Hello.
And Sean.
Hello.
And this is the first episode we're doing in our kind of newer format. Because, as we mentioned before, so we went from doing a weekly release to doing a monthly release. And instead of tying it to a specific movie, we'll do more general discussions and kind of go through the news that's happened since the last time we recorded. Like news that we find interesting. There could be stuff that we don't really touch on because it's not anything that any of us are interested in,
or we just forgot about it.
Yeah,
probably.
Then we'll go through some like stuff we've been watching recently and discuss that, and then some give some recommendations of things to check out at the end. And then this format can evolve over time and change, and maybe we can try to get guests on or cover different topics or whatever. It's just we wanted to get something a little bit more manageable for our schedules and timing, and not forcing everyone to watch Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, where it's 75% of the first movie and then 25% of some of the more stilted acting you've ever seen.
Yeah. Garbage day.
Yeah. So before we dive into the stuff we've been watching, we can kind of go through recent news, because there has been a bit of horror news, and it's funny because almost all of us, I've seen people talk about the commenters at this website are toxic and the commenters at this website are toxic. It's like, I think the commenters everywhere are toxic on every topic, because on Facebook, a local news station shares a picture of a puppy, and then people are like, oh, that's a cute puppy. And then 3 comments down, it's like, oh, well, their owner's a libtard. And then somebody's like, actually, I've heard there's something else. And just, come on. But they, Universal and Blumhouse are supposed to be working on a relaunch or reboot of The Thing, or a sequel, because I've heard a bunch of stuff. And it's one of those things where, was it 2011 was this Thing prequel? Which
was not great. It had decent...
I never saw it, and I meant to.
I went and watched it when it came out in theaters, and it had decent visuals, but the problem with that is the original is so much grounded in practical effects. I remember seeing the remake, and it was all just digital.
Well, and two, apparently the thing that was very frustrating to people was that they had done a lot of practicals and shot the practicals, but then ended up using CGI in the final movie.
Yeah.
And I guess that's just them market research thinking, hey, the younger audiences prefer to have the bigger evolved CG looking version of something versus a practical.
Or they can stomach maybe not great CGI versus, not great practical.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting, but a lot of people are just very upset about it. And my thing is well, look, the original still exists.
Well, actually, that's not the original. That's the remake.
Well, So the John Carpenter version, the original, one from the 50s.
It exists.
Is still out there. And then, the video game that came out for the PlayStation 2, Xbox, and GameCube back in the 2000s was kind of an unofficial sequel. I mean, it wasn't canon or anything, but was a sequel story to the original John Carpenter thing.
Yeah, it took off pretty much just a little bit after where that one ended, and kind of, I think McCready was the one that had survived, and he was the Thing, because I think you find, what was his name, Childs? You find him out frozen. So, because I had the game, I probably still have it somewhere.
It's worth a little bit of money now.
Yeah, I probably have it somewhere.
And it's one of those things, frustratingly, not super widely available, because some of that stuff becomes pretty easy to get. Because it was on the PC too, I think, but it's not on Steam or Good Old Games or whatever, so it's not super easy to find. I'd kind of like to replay it at this point.
Well, I think what I want to see from it is, from what I read too, I've never read the original short story, but I understand that they're going to go more on something like that, or they've recently found more to it. There's something that it's not going to be the direct adaptation of what John Carpenter did. It's going to be slightly different.
Blumhouse tends to trend towards the lower end of the budget scale on projects, so I couldn't see them trying to produce a $50 million version of it.
But if are they co-producing with Universal? Us was $30 million.
Well, I mean, it's just one of those things where The Thing is one of those funny things, kind of like Blade Runner or whatever, where widely renowned by fans now. And, there's a lot of midnight screenings. There's a lot of people that have it in their top 5 movies of all time list and all this stuff. But the first one, when it came out in theaters, was a bomb. considered a bomb at the time. The prequel that came out in 2011 did not make a lot of money. So it's just one of these properties where in theaters it has not proven to be a moneymaker. So I don't know why they would go and pour a bunch of money into it, even if
straight to Peacock. Whatever is that Universal's? Is that just the NBC thing, or is that Universal's portal for Universal movies?
I think that is the Universal.
Or is Hulu? I guess Hulu's not involved with Universal at all, really.
Yeah, they own a percentage ownership stake in it. Because initially Hulu,
and so also Disney does. Because
initially it was a Fox Universal project, so that's why it was NBC and Fox products that were on there, and then eventually ABC and Disney bought a stake in it as well, and then when Disney acquired Fox, they then acquired their ownership stake of it. And then I think Universal had tried selling some of their stake of it, but now it's Disney owns a heavy chunk of it. Let's see, yeah. So the thing that Universal's working on remaking it, it's gonna be more based on the novel Who Goes There. That was by John W. Campbell, and let's see, I'm trying to think if there's any other actual solid.
I don't think I remember reading anything else that was...
No, they're talking about including lost pages from the original book.
Yeah, that's what I remember. I'd be interested to go read the actual story that's based upon. Because I know when I Am Legend was coming out, I read that and I loved the actual source material, the actual story. I did not care for the movie. So I'm interested in it. I think it's an interesting project because I can differentiate the difference between John Carpenter's The Thing, which is kind of like Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, where it's kind of in general the same source material, but they did what they want to do with it, as opposed to maybe a more literal version of what was made. So I'm excited for that. I think it could be good. It just depends on, who they cast. You know what? I don't care who they cast. I just want something good that's maybe creepier, slower paced.
They'll cast Wyatt Russell, Kurt Russell's son.
I mean, you could.
And then they'll cast. But I don't know who'd be a good young Larry David.
Larry David.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, who's going to be a good Wilford Brimley?
Paul Rudd, because he's the same age now as Wilford Brimley was in Cocoon, I think. So they can just get Paul Rudd to be the...
Well, I think there's a lot of interesting they could do with it.
John C. Reilly.
But, again,
yeah,
John C. Reilly would be really
Guys,
good.
I'm over here at the
I'm okay, let me in.
But, people, gets... I don't know why they get upset about this stuff, because it's again, it's still... those properties you love still exist. And if this isn't even sitting at Universe, it's then why does it matter?
I honestly just hate reacting to people on the internet. You know what I mean? I just don't even. I don't read any of the comment stuff on Bloody Disgusting. None of that. I follow people on Twitter that are not insane.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Film people.
Sometimes somebody you follow,
you will react
to something.
Yeah. But I just
go down those rabbit
I just hate cut it. I just cut all that stuff
and
out.
Then everybody
it's not worth it.
Gets so aggravated about remakes and reboots and stuff. And it's well, here's the thing. Sometimes those are just really good stories that have so many more interpretations to be made. So why shelve that?
It's just closed-mindedness
when
of
you
not being able to think creatively. Hey, oh wait, something else could be done with this.
Yeah. Well, too, it's there's nothing wrong with taking something and going in a different creative direction.
The concept is ripe as far as not knowing who to trust. That is just inherently a interesting concept. You can see how it can be kind of taken advantage of in modern day. You think somebody is one person, but behind closed doors there's another, which is everybody talks about politically. When Trump, got elected, all of a sudden it's this person isn't who I thought they were. It's the
there's
same.
A bunch of memes on social media that shows McCready from The Thing. He's nobody trusts anybody. So it's dating in your 30s. Nobody trusts anybody now, or it's an evergreen concept.
And kind of where I think Prometheus failed me a little bit is they could have played with that a little bit, especially when David put the little black goo in the drink and stuff. There's a lot to be. I think there's a lot of stuff to play with there and have fun with. So I have no issue with it because again, the thing still exists, and if you,
I would just say
it doesn't make it any better or less of a film.
For a property like The Thing, they can't really rest on the laurels of it being a pre-existing IP to sell tickets. They need to make a new and interesting concept that sells people just on what it is.
Yep.
and if it does, if it does a good job of that, because I think the 2011 was a prequel to, it was a well-regarded cult movie at this point.
But a 30-year-old movie at that point in time that the market of people they were going after was, at that point in time, probably my age. I was 21.
So Dr. Sleep was, The Shining did make money financially, and it was a movie that was seen as a success and has become a huge, cornerstone of pop culture. Everybody knows stuff from, they know stuff from that movie. There's, for the new Super Bowl ad, they're going to have a Bryan Cranston series of commercials where he's playing Jack Torrance or something. So it's just people are aware of all that pop culture, and that movie didn't make money. So I think...
and it had Hugh McGregor and other known people attached.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what I look at, and it's I think you just scratch... I'm excited for something like that.
Yeah,
because
Blumhouse is smart. They're not... they know horror. They are not a studio that says, hey, we need to make a horror film. Let's relaunch this. And you know what I mean? And think what's the easy route, or what... They don't, they understand, I think. They understand what it takes to get people in seats.
At this point, you're talking a movie that is it'd be 39 years difference between the time that John Carpenter's The Thing came out and this, and then almost 70 years, it'd be a 70-year difference between the original and this. So don't rest on the laurels of anything.
Here's what I gotta look at, man. They've made A Star is Born 3 times, and the last version made a crap ton of money and won awards for people. So you can revisit the same idea multiple times, just execution and who you get attached.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't look at it and see it as a lack of creativity.
Here's what they need to do. They need to get a bunch of SoundCloud rappers and Post Malone to be the stars.
Yeah, I don't want to see that. Nobody wants it. No,
or they could do a Mark Duplass mumblecore version. No. Everybody's just talking and you never see the thing.
No, it'd be awful. But
it'd be interesting.
there's a lot of interesting stuff there, and I don't want to say Lovecraftian because I guess it kind of falls in that genre.
Very nature. It kind of is
But I hate comparing everything to that because this is this man's own story, whatever. But I'm interested in it. I think it could be exciting, and you just kind of want to see when was the last time you watched a gross out kind of movie that disturbed you with something? And that's where I look at The Thing and that property, or Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And it's there is a good possibility to have gross out, just something that sticks with you, that you go back to and say, that scene is disturbing even as a 30-year-old. Because you're a younger kid, you look at those and the chest burst scene in the original Thing where they bite the guy's arms off and they're trying that's good.
The movies that people would probably refer to now as the gross up movies, like Serbian Film or Martyrs or something.
Yeah, but no, I want because again, Aliens, that's where it failed with Prometheus and
even the new season of Stranger Things had kind of goopy monster stuff.
Yeah, but it just had a lack of it was so stretched out.
But so The Thing will be coming back. Maybe, who knows? It might not actually come to fruition. A lot of stuff gets announced and then hits snags in development. But
it seems like when Blumhouse announces something,
it usually
happens.
They have a way to get
a plan.
It made.
Yeah, they have a plan.
They don't just willy-nilly do stuff. It seems
and then mentioning Blumhouse, so I know that there have been some reactions of the test screening of Halloween Kills.
Mm-hmm.
So the part 2 of 3 films from Halloween, number 1 already came out in 2018 and David Gordon Green directing. And it sounded like the early buzz, it seems like they went a little bit more for the fences than they did with the first one, the 2018. Because I'd seen that one thing you posted where it sounded like they had retconned some stuff maybe.
And then he deleted that post, so I don't know.
But retconning story or tone or...
Yeah.
Is it maybe going back to actually he is controlled by the cult of Sam Hain and blah, 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 and...
They said this is more acid, on Halloween on acid.
Yeah.
They said it's very wild. I guess there's a lot of kills. Somebody said, one of the reactions was I think the fans are going to love it, but critics may not.
It's every Halloween movie.
Yeah.
The critics seem to really like the last one because they had a decent Rotten Tomatoes
Well, I think what happens with a lot of
and it made good money.
With the slasher films, I think a lot of critics have written them off before they've seen them because that genre has such, especially the more, I'm trying to think of how you, so the group of critics that aren't just the horror fanboys and the horror-centric sites, a lot of those reviewers see a slasher and ugh. More of this trash.
And then I can't think of the last time I saw a good slasher, though.
Well, my point is
the last time you saw a good slasher?
My point is they go in predisposed.
There was a good film, not good for a slasher.
Yeah, one that actually was good.
I think they are right on. You know what I
So
mean?
I'm
As
saying,
far
like,
as
if you try, I'm trying to think, like, so, like, in terms of a straight slasher, so you've had stuff like The Purge, which had elements, was more of like a high concept, almost
Yeah.
sci-fi
But
type
it turned
thing.
into more like the.
but if you're talking about
Well,
slasher, you're
Because
talking about like Halloween.
you've had decent home invasion films in the past 10, 15 years, but you haven't had many slashers. Like, I'm trying to think of, like, quality slasher films.
outside of Halloween, I mean, you had Scream, which that was
Well, the last Scream was 2011,
it was
Yeah,
still
that
the
was a
last
good one.
decade.
and that one
You know.
didn't make money.
No,
but
that
it was good.
It was good. It didn't make money, but that was because it's probably a little past its prime. But yeah, I mean, there's not many major theatrical releases of slashers. I can't even remember outside of Halloween that, I mean, I know people like Hush a lot, but
But that was still more like on the home invasion side than the
did
slasher
somebody get
side.
slashed with a knife?
Yeah, but I think
Slasher.
I think slasher you kind of lean towards a high body count.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a different
not-
You had to
factor.
have somebody shoving half their body in a laundry chute and wildly
Yeah.
swinging a blade around to me.
That was a
The slasher.
terrifying scene, Derek.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, so the only point was, I think a lot of critics who gave it decent scores on Rotten Tomatoes, maybe it's because, like, oh, it's a watchable slasher film. I haven't seen a
Yeah.
watchable slasher film in
Well,
forever.
Yeah.
So, because even you go back to the era of, like, the post-Scream movies, you had, like, Urban Legend and Know What You Did Last Summer, Valentine, I'm trying to remember all those, like, Cherry Falls. That was more like a direct-to-video deal, though. I'm trying to think of the other slashers in the era. You had just a bunch of stuff that came out back then, and even out of that glut, there was only a few things that people actually kind of liked, and it was mostly the Scream films.
Yeah. So
Um,
if they go more psychedelic or just wild with this, then that's something, you know.
I just want to see.
I
I wish,
posted in that group that David Gordon Green was supposed to do that Suspiria remake originally.
yeah.
So it's like if he does a
he's funneling
Suspiria
that.
mixed with Halloween.
Like
See-
an original Suspiria, the remake, yeah. That's
I
what
See,
love
I would
it.
rather
I love
s-
the
But it
remake.
wasn't psychedelic.
I would
It was
rather
just-
see.
No.
Yeah.
I would rather see a Halloween movie that was more in tone with Vice Principals and The Righteous Gemstones, like these really dark comedies. But that
Yeah.
absolutely would not make money.
No, and it'd be so weird. But I just with me, and we've, if anybody's really that interested in hearing my thoughts on the franchise, and I was, that's how I feel about it. So
What?
the Halloween the reboot.
Well, it feels like
yeah,
I was.
no, I didn't
Yeah,
love it either.
if for me to actually go to the theater to watch it, it needs to. I don't know. I mean,
Well, I think too, out of the 2018 Halloween, I think I was the highest on it of everyone, and even I wasn't like, oh, it's a great movie. It's just like for what it was, it delivered what you expected.
so
and it was.
is it fair to say the 2018 Halloween is to the Halloween films as what The Force Awakens was to Star Wars? Because it was essentially the same thing.
No,
from
not really, because
it's pretty
it-
similar.
It rewrote all over the past movies, though.
Okay, outside of that, though, it was a safe movie that reinvigorated whatever fan base was there. It didn't offend anybody, but it didn't take any risk. And at the end of the day, it was a critically
I
and
don't know, I think
financially successful film that was pretty
I mean,
mediocre.
you can maybe make that case, but regardless, it was like its own thing. And
It is what I'm saying, but I can look at those
I mean,
two
kinda.
I would
movies,
say it's more akin
Yeah.
to something like Halloween H2O than a Star Wars film in that.
I'm just saying, as far as...
Because Halloween H2O discarded those sequels too. It just basically said the only canon films were 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And then Halloween's
Outside
like...
of that,
So
but-
what's funny is...
I wish they would just say like, hey, every single one we make is it's like an own anthology thing. It's own like, here's Michael Myers. Now Laurie Strode is like this. You know what I mean? If they're like, granted, I feel like they talked about making a trilogy, so
Well,
I'm guessing it's all going to kind of follow. That's why it would be surprising if it was retcon,
Look,
but
all I
I would be
need-
happy with 3 different flavors of
What's
that.
funny is like if they were to take the not to get into it now, but like I know like we're going to talk about the Dragon Ball Z Broly movie or whatever. But if they took the approach that those original Dragon Ball movies took, is all those movies that they made during the original run of the series were not canon to the series. They did not tie into the timelines of the show. They didn't tie into the storylines of the show. It was just you take all these characters you know and like, and you just put a new villain, you do some new story, and then you don't have to follow. Like they can be sequels to those movies because I think in the original series they made like a couple of movies that
Made 3 Broly movies.
that followed each other, but they did not follow the series and they didn't tie into the anime or the manga. So I think you could just take a series. Like, let's just make these movies that don't really have to have
But
connected
people
continuity.
are crazy about canon and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They're I don't know why the fixation on that. You know what I mean? Like, I just want a good movie.
They want it to be attached to everything. They don't want just, but that's where, again, I
mean, does anybody really care if you make a new Friday the 13th that you have to tie in where Tommy Jarvis is in present day?
No, but I'm saying, like, people get caught up on, like, all film, like Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like, oh, like, this thing wasn't exactly like, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't really care if the movie is good.
The thing about that, though, is there's like with Star Wars, and I know we're getting in a big, there's so much other multimedia out there for Star Wars. Like Dash Rendar, let's just take him for example. People want that to be real because that was a meaningful thing from their childhood, right? But as with Halloween, you know, like the only two people you really care about, or three people you probably really care about in that franchise is Loomis, Strode, and Myers, right? Yeah. So outside of that, that doesn't matter. You don't have any...
Josh Hartnett's character?
Yeah, nobody cares about him. So you have all these other outlying stuff that, like, in other franchises, people just get so attached to. But in Halloween, you don't really have it. You only have three main characters. And Loomis, the actor that portrayed him, he's passed away. So you can't really...
He passed away in the 90s.
Yeah, you can't really revisit him.
Yeah, know? I mean, but it's just like Star Wars. There's people who like freaking, you know... I don't know. I can't think of a random Star Wars name.
Well, you have like Jane Solo. Let's just take Jane Solo, who was in the expanded universe now.
But I'm saying there's people like that with Halloween. There's people that love Cult of Thorn. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like there's people that like all those little
the Cult of Thorn cult.
Yeah,
that's like, where I think as a director or as a writer, you make nods to that.
Yeah.
But you don't maybe go for that way. You validate that person's feelings, or you give them a little bit of something. You know, or what is it that they use for Star Wars, the newest one? It's like fan service. Fan service has become negative. So I think fan service can be positive. You give a little fan service to certain things, but then you go on.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I think with a lot of these...
Because it's all movies are fan service.
I don't know. It's like, I understand wanting to have, like, not
all movies are fan service.
But I get...
Everybody's a fan of something.
But I'm saying, don't say that, because then it means all films are like franchise films.
No. But you
know what I mean? If you're talking about if it's a fan of a series, then yeah, but that's something
I'm
different.
Saying, like, you can still be a fan of a director that does not make franchises, but he still is like, or him or her still have their.
Well, you can say
there's some filmmakers that do one film that are phenomenal. You know what I mean? Like, it's not everything. That reduces it down.
No, I'm saying, but there wouldn't exist that.
Yeah.
Okay, but like the Halloween series, not to spend too much more time on it. I mean, those movies, it's funny that people get really upset. It's one of those kind of, you can't win for losing with. But the thing is, if you're making those Halloween series, you're like, well, the last movie made, over $250 million. I think that whatever we did, even if it doesn't satisfy the hardcore base, it satisfied the general fan base and made us a lot of money. So let's just do what we want. Yeah. And I think that's the tactic they'll take.
And they shot 2 or 3 back to back, right?
I think so.
And it's Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, right? Or Halloween...
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like, we'll see how all that turns out. But it's just funny that they're giving it the big treatment that they give, like a larger franchise. Because a horror franchise, like a slasher, hasn't ever really gotten that treatment.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, though,
Because even Halloween H2O, which was successful when it came out, they didn't have, like, a sequel plan.
No,
they had to back into a sequel after that movie made money, and like, okay, well.
But here's the rare occurrence that's happened for the Halloween franchise is that you have an actress that is revered as Jamie Lee Curtis coming back into her original role to play and I know she's done that before.
She's back again for the 4th time.
When you get somebody,
5th time.
Yeah, but when you get somebody like that to come back to the franchise, and that's a big deal. If you got The Thing with Kurt Russell and they did a remake to it, that would be a big deal, right? Now, maybe not...
Especially because it would define the end of that movie.
Yes. But I'm saying that's a big deal. So when you get somebody like her to come back, I do think somebody of her, level of as an actress, like that's a big deal. It's not like you went, and not to knock anybody else's in these franchises, but they didn't go and get a 3rd or 4th tier person to return from 4, 5, or 6.
Yes,
They got the actress from the movie to come back after she pretty much threw him away.
Well,
they had her she pretty much filled her contractual obligation with the Busta Rhymes film by getting killed in the first, and that was like her kind of washing her hands of the series.
Yeah.
And to get her to come back after that, I think that's a big deal.
Well, and too, I know people are upset that Danielle Harris wasn't in it, and there's even that picture of her and some people from the Rob Zombie ones giving the middle finger.
Yeah. And again,
all I'll say is that if you want to make an entertaining, self-contained film, you can't try to play up to 3 different continuities and all the, because the average person walks in and be confused as hell.
Yeah. And
well, I mean, Rob Zombie didn't do that. He just recast that character. I don't think they were talking about like, let's do the same roles. Like, you know what I mean?
no,
Daniel Harris recast.
That was fan service.
Here's the thing, though.
Daniel Harris was fan service.
Like, I don't know any of these people, and there may be talks going on, but it seems like that kind of poisons the well for you to be brought in for the second or third film. If maybe they said, like, we have to build this story world, and it doesn't make sense to bring in these people that don't fit the roles. If we're going to bring them in, let's hold them off for a sequel. But then getting really upset about it and vocal.
Were they actually mad, or were they kind of like playfully?
Well, I know that they had done like a picture giving the middle finger.
I know, but like, is that like, do they take it down?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because I remember, like, because you don't know how some people react to stuff, because Rob Zombie's movie got pulled at a studio because he said they had no morals for picking it up with House of 1,000 Corpses, but...
Well, just real quick, and this is kind of follows my statement of what I said earlier, is like, if you tell me they did Halloween with Jimmy Lee Curtis, that carries so much more weight than if, we got Halloween and the lead actress is Danielle Harris, because most people are like, who the hell is that?
Well, you have like the...
And that's not saying that she's a bad actor.
Well,
I'm just saying that her name doesn't carry the cachet that Jamie Lee Curtis
I'm just saying, like, the thing that's a fun nod for fans of the franchise and convention-type fans and stuff doesn't carry the same weight as it does for the general box office goer who's what makes your movie money.
Just for example, our mom is the one that introduced us to that franchise, and we went and watched it with her. Do you think she would have been anywhere near as interested if it was Danielle Harris as the lead actress?
You have to remind her who that was.
Well, and I don't mean like the lead. I'm just talking about like in the film. You know what I mean? They probably didn't expect to be the lead. But at the same time,
I think
like
she was...
No, but that's just my point. That's usually what happens. You get these franchises rebooted, and I'm not knocking anybody in there, but you get who you can get that's attached to it. And sometimes you get somebody more like that than you get that, like a Kevin Bacon. You're not going to get Kevin Bacon back in the Friday 13th film. You know,
unless you just back up a truck of money and you have a good script.
Yeah, but I'm saying like you know, because you can do whatever you want, but you're not going to get. Usually, you don't get him or like Tremors, they didn't get him in the second one.
Well,
you know,
point being, we're not trashing my license stuff.
You try to do that pilot.
The point is that when you come to these franchise films, the average film goer really doesn't care, because it does seem like in the horror world for a while there were movies where their entire hook was they just got people who've been in other stuff you liked, and it seemed like that's kind of run its course.
Yeah.
And
that's kind of what I was getting at.
And you can get those. A lot of those people are great actors, and you put them in a role that fits, and they'll do a great job, and it'll help it. It won't hurt it. But just having a movie, it's like, oh, we've got the star of this and this and this and this, and these were all obscure cult films that are big on the convention circuit, but didn't sell much, copies of tickets or.
Who's the guy that was in Pumpkinhead and Aliens?
Oh, Lance Henriksen?
Yeah, like Lance Henriksen is great in a lot of stuff, but he's one of those guys that typically kind of ended up in movies like that. You know, they would get him and he would have a role in there.
And then he's in stuff that's good too, high budget.
Which he's great. I'm saying, but a lot of times you get actors like that don't necessarily headline huge films, but you can get them and they will pull interest.
Or I feel like Michael Biehn. There's a lot of people that are great actors I would love to have in a project or something, but their names alone won't sell the project, because at this point, there's only maybe 1 or 2 people whose names actually do sell the project. Now, it can help you with getting people to buy it overseas, but for the most part, like if you're beneath the Adam Sandler, The Rock type level, people don't typically make your movie all that much more profitable.
Yeah. And what's his name that played the original Michael Myers of Shape? What is his name? You know, he was in Halloween 2018 just a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, he said that. They're going to have an announcement today, too. Great. We're recording this on Super Bowl Sunday, so when this goes out, that will already be out. But who knows? Maybe they'll say, hey, Danielle Harris is in it. And all this entire conversation. Again, I don't know.
I just want anybody to realize, I was not knocking her. I'm just saying, like, you get somebody like Lance Henriksen or Danielle Harris that sells more to your hardcore horror crowd and less to a wider audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Nick Castle. Nick Castle was the original Shape.
Castle.
And it's one of those things where, like I said, all those people are great. It's just, I think that sometimes too, like, people can kind of confuse, like, oh, someone that is at a horror convention that has a table with a lot of people lined up means that if they're in a movie, they'll sell a lot of tickets. It's like, well, it really doesn't work that way, because even like Taylor Swift, who has millions of fans, her being in a film like Cats can't make it make money.
And that will probably make her not be in any more films.
So other news, the filmmaker who is behind the original Silent Hill has said that they're working on a new Silent Hill project and Fatal Frame. So just really doubling down on the whole video game movie thing.
But see, I find horror stuff to be a little more interesting, and I actually really enjoy the original Silent Hill movie. I know we've all watched it, and I feel like that one was, as far as like adaptations go. Now, I'm not as familiar with the franchise as maybe you all are, but I thought it was.
I'm
good.
not super familiar. Yeah. I followed it from a distance.
It was from what I know. Like if I was going to show somebody legit, and we all know, like I enjoy the Resident Evil movie franchise. I don't think it's great, but I can watch it. I think Silent Hill 1, never seen 2, is more enjoyable than most of the movie. Is it say more true to what it seemed like the franchise was about, and more toward horror than Resident Evil.
More towards the tone and
the
stuff.
The director was Christoph Gans, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. The main thing I remember about the original Silent Hill is I saw it in theaters with friends, and one of my friends
I think I saw it with you, maybe.
One of our friends was laughing during the barbed wire scene,
which is pretty brutal,
which was uncomfortable because everyone in the theaters is kind of like looking.
So I remember enjoying it, but I don't know if this is. I guess this is bad because I don't remember anything from that film really. Like I don't remember any scene specific. I remember the feel of the film and the look of it. But I don't remember anything with the story.
What year
the
did that
plot?
come out in?
2006.
All right, because see,
it's been a while.
There's two movies that I kind of remember the most from that time because I was in high school. I graduated in 2008, and that was House of Wax and Silent Hill because I watched those two a lot for whatever reason, and Hills Have Eyes. But like those are two that I have like really fond memories of. So maybe I just have a little nostalgia that goes into it, and that's why I like them.
I mean, generally speaking, people like those. I just, for some reason, I went to theaters to see them. I only watched it that once. Yeah. I walked out thinking that was pretty good, but I can never remember anything.
Well, I remember like the creepy torso or the creepy torso in the bathroom, like when this tornado siren would play, and then like that was cool. But again, I'm not super familiar with the franchise, so a lot of that was new to me. So I don't know how true or how not it was.
Did you watch Jacob's Ladder?
Yeah.
So it's just funny because a lot of
we even talked about that.
Hill,
yeah, we talked about that in the podcast.
Yeah, so like I think with Silent Hill, like the games for the most part, you talk about like continuity and canon. The games all kind of just reset the canon with each game and don't really follow the prior game that closely. Like the town will be different and the characters are different. So I think with that series, you can just make a movie that's like here's a fresh movie that's just there's a town called Silent Hill. Is creepy, and it's the only connective tissue you need.
Yeah, because the town could be a different form of hell to each individual person that doesn't.
That would be a good anthology TV series,
yeah.
Mystery TV series.
Yeah, and that's why I think there's again, like I think there's
every season a new town, but it's all Silent Hill.
Just get Norman Reedus to be in the movie. And then, but I just think there'd be a lot of interesting stuff to go from there.
Like, what's funny is if they're going to remake so I guess the Silent Hill property is a little bit separate from the games. There's been rumors they're making some new games.
Man.
But, like, what if they were to make a Silent Hill movie and they let Hideo Kojima direct it?
I don't know if that would be a good thing.
Or I don't know.
You don't know.
If you had him paired with a really strong director.
Let him write it and then have a really strong director.
I don't know.
Here's what you do. You let him make it in the Unreal Engine, like CG.
Story, yeah. But anyway, so speaking of that, the game, there was two games. One might be, apparently 2 years ago, Konami was going around pitching to game developers. One was like a new big Silent Hill. The other was a maybe Undead. What is that game called? Not Undead. What's the name of it? Until Dawn.
Yeah.
Until Dawn style game.
Yeah.
But so I saw somebody
like a Telltale,
yes,
kind of like
yes.
episodic.
So one would be like that, one would be like a traditional
quick
Silent
time events.
I saw some people talking, and I don't know if it was on I think it was on Giant Bomb, and they said that there was some rumors swirling, which normally they don't talk about rumors a whole lot, but that maybe Kojima and Konami's relationship has cooled, and Kojima's been talking about wanting to make a horror game, and he may actually. They think that like it's not out of the realm of possibility that he may actually be possibly working with them to make that.
I'd heard that too.
And they said you'd think that would never happen, but they had been hearing different things.
So I think like contrary to a lot of people would be upset, like I do think that the more episodic Until Dawn style Silent Hill could be fun because I don't know, maybe it's just as I get older. It's just like a lot of times like I started playing Death Stranding. It's like I'm enjoying this, but the prospect of playing like 40 hours where you have no idea what to do half the time, it's like, or games a little bit more guided cinematic experience could be fun too, where you can still go and get a story out of it and experience things, but you don't have as much.
Did you guys never played that Wii Silent Hill, did you? Shattered Memories?
No.
It was very good. And it's built for motion controls though, so that's unfortunate that it can't be easily ported.
Well, that's why something like I think you know, when you talk about horror games and stuff like Resident Evil 7 and 2, I enjoy so much because it takes like 5 hours to beat those games.
Yeah.
So you can sit down and make good progress. If you have an hour a day you can devote to stuff, you can make progress. Whereas something like Death Stranding, really playing 1 hour doesn't get you anywhere, especially if you hit it.
And I think Silent Hill, most survival horror games are like that, though.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Most of them are
quicker.
under 20 hours.
And you can speed run them too, because I can beat RE2 now in like 50 minutes or something.
But it's just funny, I would like to see that property come back because I think it's one of those things where you don't really need to care about canon. It's just there's a creepy town. And
there's always going to be people that care about that, but I think overall...
I mean, you can pull elements people liked from the various games, but I don't think anybody is saying you need to be slavish and include the same characters in each one.
Well, I think the one thing that Silent Hill did, which I think you probably like better than Resident Evil, is that it made a world that is more interesting if you don't have continuity. Whereas Resident Evil fans seem, and myself included...
No, I like the continuity of Resident Evil. I do.
I'm saying, but I know sometimes you get a little more excited about 7 because new character, different, whereas like... I think Silent Hill is much easier to do because it seems like most of the games were different.
Like something. I mean, I got excited about 7 because it was not 6. Also,
well, that too.
And it was the first one. It's like, oh, finally,
Like, I wonder too if like you make because like playing through Resident Evil 7, like even though it's got like a new coat of paint on the Resident Evil series. It's still collecting items.
Yeah, it's still Resident Evil. That's what I like about it.
My thing is, like, what if they even disconnected it further from that? And it's like there's really not puzzles. I mean, I guess that's what everybody cares about. But like to me, it's more fun just to explore a creepy location.
Well,
and like versus.
But then you have to make a lot more locations if you're not making puzzles. You know what I mean? It's the whole thing of resources. Like we can put a lot of detail in this like house. If you're going to be in here for 45 minutes,
if you're going to backtrack,
you have to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Blah, 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 blah.
But what made RE7 so effective,
and I like the puzzles,
was that when you're doing the puzzles in RE7 and even later on RE2 and the Tyrant gets introduced, you're being stalked. So you can have an area that you've went through 5 or 6 times and exterminated every threat, but then they bust through the wall, and then that adds a level of tension that you didn't have before.
Like I said, maybe it's just because I'm like not having a ton of times. It's like I really don't want to have to go. Like, because a lot of stuff in games doesn't make intuitive sense for the real world. Like, oh, you would never think this puzzle would like. It's just game logic. Yeah, and sometimes I was like, why can't they just like forego some of this backtracking and just...
That's what makes Resident Evil 1 HD like harder to play through than the newer ones, because that game is so intensive on backtracking and puzzle figuring. Whereas like when you go and play even RE3, because I have it for the GameCube, like there's not many puzzles in that. So you can go through and it's more action oriented. And I don't think in 5 and 6, I've never played 6 much, but I know 5 there's not many. You know, 5 is pretty...
It's pretty straightforward stuff. It's like, oh, pick up this key to get through this gate, and then you go through
there's not much back. From what I remember,
6 is chapter based. So, like, you haven't played 6 at all?
I played the Leon.
Yeah, I mean, like, it'll be like, okay, now you go to this campaign. Like, it goes pretty straightforward. But I think really, like, Konami, if they wanted to just make some money and get this jump started again, is like, man, just take a cue from Resident Evil. Just remake that first game. You know what I mean? Like, pay an external developer to remake it. That would take some time. Yeah. Blue Point, they remade like Shadow of the Colossus and did an awesome job with that. They're remaking something right now, and I think they said for Sony, and everybody assumes it is Demon Souls for like PS5 or whatever. They're remaking that, but like somebody like Blue Point, if they was to remake Silent Hill, do that while you're spending time making Silent Hill whatever number this is, you know what I mean, or the relaunch.
Kind of what Resident Evil's doing right now.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they should do.
While they're doing RE8, they're kind of doing their greatest hits by giving the fans. They're doing fan service, giving their fans what they want, but they're making good quality.
Like the thing that has to like at this point make them see a huge lost opportunity is people still post walkthroughs and run-throughs of Silent PT. Mm-hmm. And there was that guy recently had the video where he was able
broke it down.
He broke the code. The code was able to go and explore the town that's in like a cinematic at the end.
Yeah.
And, you know, 1 million people watch that. So it's like there is an appetite for all that.
And two, though, PT kind of has a certain cachet to it now. If you're not aware, it's like
it was a playable trailer.
Yes, that had... It was
demo.
It was a demo that Hideo Kojima made for his Silent Hills video game that was going to feature Norman Reedus. And it came out on the PS3.
PS4.
It came out on PS4, you can no longer get it. So if you have it downloaded, you still have it. But
I've got it on my drive.
Yeah, so like you can't get it again. Yeah. And if you were to lose your PS4 to like hard drive error, you can't get it back.
Yeah,
It's kind of got like this almost urban legend quality to it.
Yeah.
Some PS4s are selling for a lot of money on
Because
eBay.
they have it. And
But
then,
I think I was able to clone my drive. Like I think I moved or cloned some stuff because I got a PS4, then I bought a Pro, and I think it's on both of them.
Because I have an Xbox 360 and one. I think I had it on the 360 because I remember playing it before. But I don't know what
PT was
on.
only on PlayStation.
Maybe you had a PlayStation. Somebody had one because
PS4,
I
it was only on
played.
PS4. It was only on PS4.
I only got the PS4 recently, so.
Or maybe we watched videos of the
I've watched plenty of playthroughs.
Maybe it was watching.
Point being, it just shows you how people are into stuff like that. Was there other news?
Yeah, Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy, Fast and Furious 9 bringing Han back.
Fan service.
Those stories that make
Did you all watch the trailer?
No,
I don't care.
Oh my gosh! See, I always like want to catch up with those films because I'm so far behind. But that trailer looks really fun. So I'll give you a play-by-play real quick. So
Dom is like, I won't get.
So John Cena's in this one.
Yeah.
Him and John Cena, like John Cena shows up. All of a sudden, John Cena is Dom's brother.
Yeah.
and he gets Charlize Theron to wants him to kill Dom. And so there's just like some amazing stuff in there. There's a part where it's almost like a car is riding on two wheels or somebody's standing on top of a car and a car flips up like this and the person in this car like catches the car or something. And then towards the end of the trailer, somebody drives off a cliff. I don't know if it's John Cena. I can't remember who it is. They drive off a cliff just straight off like into the water, or they're going like over water. And then Charlize Theron comes in a jet and like picks up the car and takes off.
So
No. That's not even the worst. That's not even. So there's like a bridge, kind of like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Like the bridges that break, but it's like a much wider gap. Like it is a huge, like these like islands out of the ocean, and Dom is in the car. I don't remember who's with him, but anyway, he's getting chased and shot at. So he hits the nose. He goes flying. The part where the bridge hooks onto, he hits that with his car. So he drives off. Well, when he hits it with his car, the rope links to his car. So he makes like a swing grappling hook for the car. So he's swinging like Tarzan over the water with the car.
Well, here's the thing.
So, and then at the end, like Han comes, like, you know what I mean? Like that's fun,
Yeah, it's fun. But the thing that's funny is at the end of the day, when this franchise is finally done, it could end up being like outside of like the Avengers, because you take that out. But it ended up being like the highest grossing franchise. It's going to be hard to beat the Avengers and the Marvel
The problem when you compare that to something like Harry Potter is the first few movies weren't super high grossing.
No, but when was the last time we've ever seen, ever in history, a franchise that went from being like, it died in 3. That movie was dead. And then they somehow were able to resuscitate it by getting everybody that was...
but everybody loves 3. 3 is like one of the most favorites.
I enjoy 3, but I'm saying like 3 for most people that kind of killed the franchise.
Because 3 relaunched...
That's as far as I've seen.
Yeah, because 3 launched Justin Lin.
I haven't seen any more.
But I love... every time they come out, I'm like, okay, I need to catch up, and I never catch up. I love watching the trailers for
5
them.
is the one in Brazil, right? Because 5 is still my favorite. 5 was great.
Because 3... So Justin Lin had done that movie, Better Luck Tomorrow, I think, that scene that was like kind of like a cult hit on the indie circuit and stuff. And then he got Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift that, probably in the end of the day made money for him, but it wasn't like a hit like they hoped. But I think the people behind the series thought he did a good job with it, and they liked what he had done. And then they got everybody to come back and had him direct it. So it's just one of those things where that really launched his career, because he later did that one Star Trek movie and did these other movies.
He did Into Dark, or the third one, right?
Which is funny because you had 1 and 2, which I think most people liked and were
good. But 2 and 4 I think are supposed to be the worst ones.
But they still had or 2 still had it's bad, but it still had cultural impact. Doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah.
But it's still like people still, Too Fast, Too Furious, people talk about that. But then like 3 didn't have anybody from it. And then 4, I remember they got some original cast back in it, but it wasn't that. Then 5 came out, and 5 hit the right everything.
Yeah.
And then it like reinvigorated the franchise.
It introduced The Rock, and it really just...
No, I don't. And every time I'm like, I'm gonna buy all these movies. So if they were like somewhere to stream for free, because like 3 popped up somewhere a long time ago, I'm like, okay, I can finally watch 3 now. I don't want to pay money to watch them all. Like, I'll pay money to go see this one, but I'm always like a thing of catching up.
Well, it's just funny to me, at the end of the day, like, this could end up being a much more successful franchise than, like, Star Wars. Because depending on how this 9th one comes out, and again, though, this one doesn't have the expectations on it that like a movie like Star Wars has, but because it's just dumb fun, you know. But again, if that works and you're able to get all these big actors in it and get quality people, they're doing something right. You know, not only are they probably getting big paydays, but this movie's going to break $1 billion.
Yeah, it looks really fun. Like, it looks like really...
And one thing they've done that was smart that Marvel hasn't done, or it took them a while to figure out, is that this movie knows how to market toward all international audiences. They've always had more of a not all white cast, you know, from the beginning. So that worked really well for them. And they've had good, strong female leads, you know, with Michelle Rodriguez in it. And there's a lot, even though as goofy as a franchise as
people forget that's where Gal Gadot came from.
Yeah. But her character... But I look at that franchise and it's like, I could see where that appeals to the international audience because they've always had...
Well, you don't really need to know too much about the prior movies.
No.
And it's got cars and pretty people and...
Big name act. I can see how something like that could appeal to a more international audience than something like... I'll pick anything you want to throw out.
And then Kittredge from Mission Impossible 1 is apparently back too. In Mission Impossible. I don't know if he's in 7 and 8 or just 7. Probably both.
Which character is that?
So he's the guy that was like head of, I guess, like Ethan's boss. It's been a while since, but he was Ethan's boss, I think, that was kind of hunting him because he thought he was rogue, you know? So, but then he never, but he never came back.
Okay. It's funny how like almost every movie in that series is Ethan is on the good side and something happens and they think he's gone bad.
I mean, that's what, you know, you got to have the bad guy, the good guy running from something.
Mission Impossible is another franchise that, like, if you told me I get to watch the next sequel to the Bond franchise or Mission Impossible franchise tomorrow, I'm picking Mission Impossible because they came off of such a high the last couple movies, whereas Bond had Spectre wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. But now, what was the Skyfall?
You got a different director. You know what I mean? You got a different director and everything behind this one.
And do we have other news?
Yeah, just no. That's pretty much it. I mean, Resident Evil 8 rumors. So yeah, they're making Resident Evil 8 surprise.
Yeah, that's a big surprise.
So now we can discuss the stuff we've been watching. And one thing I want to mention first because I thought it was funny. So there's a movie on Hulu called Trick that has Tom Atkins in it, you know, kind of like a secondary role. Omar Epps, who's, you know, like from House, a bunch of stuff. And it's directed by Patrick Lussier, who had done the My Bloody Valentine 3D one a few years back and did that Drive Angry movie with Nick Cage. It's on Hulu. And like I was watching the beginning part of it. So it's like a slasher film where there's a guy named Trick and surprise, his name is Trick. And at one point, he has like a knife that's with a wooden handle on one side. It's carved Trick, and the other side it says Treat. And I was like, Sean, you did that segment for Volumes of Blood, where a killer comes up to the door and asks Trick or Treat, and then he goes. And
it depends on what weapon they use.
And then he goes out to his trunk, and he has like a weapon that says Trick that's like carved into a wooden handle, and the one that says Treat. And it's like there's almost no way they saw that. It's just a concept that's pretty.
And that wasn't my concept. That was the.
But they could sue them. But like, it's funny because that movie.
How old is that movie?
I mean, it just came out.
Did it? I thought somebody else said there was another movie that did that around.
Oh, maybe.
I thought like a couple years ago you told me about another one. Because when you were saying that, I thought you talked about it the other night. I thought that you were bringing it up because I didn't know it was brand new. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's just new, but like.
I thought somebody told me.
So that one was one because I heard a lot of people talking about it and I've seen people kind of trashing it in reviews. And I watched, and it's weird because, you know, they obviously, you know, you have like these bigger name, you know, like for a low budget slasher, having like Omar Epps, that was on TV for forever. It seems like he would probably cost
a very
more.
known name.
And, you know, Scream 2, you know, so being like in a classic. But then, like the beginning, there was like the audio, it wasn't where you couldn't hear it. It just sounded off. Like you could hear it, but it sounded to be a different level and different. Like, I was just listening, I was like, how'd they screw up this audio? Like, in the rest of the movie, it gets to be where it's fine. But there's points, like, where somebody's talking, and it's just, like, a different volume level, and it sounds like a different type of background noise than the stuff around it. It's like, this is what you typically see in short films or 48-hour films or stuff, not, like, a production that goes to Hulu.
That's really weird.
Real quick, that just reminds me of the time that when Spider-Man 1 came out, Sam Raimi's, and I was younger, I went to, like, a sleepover with all my cousins, and they bought a copy of that for everybody to watch. And the audio was faster than the film. So like by the time we had hit the midway point in the movie, it was done. There was no audio.
Oh my God.
So they had to take
Was
it
that
back.
on DVD?
Yeah, it was on DVD. But as we were sitting there watching it, and it's like, and it wasn't like the audio was fast. It was something weird because it started getting faster and faster. And then by the time we hit the midway point, there was no audio. And like, oh. Then they kept doing it, so we got a different one.
That was so weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the movie overall, like the concept for it, you can tell it's pretty cheaply shot because they have some like CG effects, and then they kind of have limited locations, and then they have just ridiculous stuff, and they really saddle these actors with dialogue. It'd be tough to deliver if you have Anthony Hopkins back in his prime when he was like winning Oscars for Hannibal and stuff. Like even him delivering some of his dialogue would be like, ugh. And then like the twist that comes in, and it's also got Jamie Kennedy in it. So there's really banking on like getting Tom Atkins and Jamie Kennedy and stuff that would help sell it. And it's one of those movies.
And to be fair, Anthony Hopkins did great in Westworld. Did you watch Westworld?
Oh, I'm just saying I'm just saying when he was in the prime of like being considered for Oscar contention, he's still really good.
Yeah.
He'll do a Transformers film, but then he'll also give an amazing performance in something else. So I wasn't putting him down. I'm just saying, like like Daniel Day-Lewis and his Oscar.
Well, I'd also my point wasn't that you were putting him down. My point was that it depends on the material sometimes too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like it depends on the material versus how the performance is and the direction and everything.
So the point is, like in this movie, Omar Epps does an admirable job trying to deliver what they've given him, but the story is just very flat. You're not really invested in any of it. You have, groups of teenagers getting killed. It's just like very blah, or cops or whatever. And it's just like very over the top and very melodramatic. Like a big metal beam goes through a car and crushes and blows up a cop or something. And the cop's like, no. And then they're crying. It's just, so it's very over the top for what it is. And when you get to the twist, you're like, good God. And there's like logical loopholes. It's like, well, how is this person allowed to do this? So it's one of those things where I wouldn't recommend checking it out. I only watched it because I'd heard so much negative buzz. It was the day I was doing other work. I'm like, well, I can just listen in the background and see what I think of it. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm glad I didn't actually devote 2 hours to this. It was time I had to spend doing something anyway. Yeah. So it wasn't like I was wasting time. Because
it's not the most fair way to watch a film, but when you're giving it a chance versus nothing, it's better than not watching it.
If you have morbid curiosity,
I do that occasionally.
If you have morbid curiosity, it's on Hulu. But I would think you could spend your time better elsewhere.
Yeah, I think when you have something like that, it's kind of like a low risk, low reward kind of situation because you're already paying for the streaming service and just on there.
Because once again, like Tom Atkins does a good job in what he's given, like the type of role he's given. But it's just it's one of those things where everybody in it did a good job, in terms of the acting. Like Jamie Kennedy, I enjoyed and stuff. But I think that the script didn't really do anybody any favors, and maybe. And it's from a director who's made other stuff that was successful. So it may have just been kind of had a concept and just kind of getting the budget chopped down and the scope chopped down until they're like, okay, you get this amount of money to try to pull off what you need to quadruple the budget for. And I think that happens a lot.
Did you guys watch any of the Jamie Kennedy Tremors movies?
No.
I didn't know they even existed.
I think he was in 5 maybe. I don't know if he plays like a documentarian or whatever. Maybe he might be shooting a documentary for... I can't think of his name. Is it Berryman or something? The gun expert from the first Tremors?
Yeah.
He's like basically been in almost every one. He kind of carried the franchise like after a certain point.
Fred Ward?
No, not Fred Ward.
Or who's the main character?
The gun expert. Fred Ward, right? Isn't Fred Ward the...
Oh, Michael Gross.
Yeah, Michael Gross.
Yeah.
I think he may be like the camera guy for Michael Gross's like reality show on hunting, and he's like hunting tremors and stuff like that. That wasn't a terrible movie. I think I only watched 5. I didn't watch 6 and the others, but
it's just funny when you see that franchise went on to make almost like 10 movies.
But direct to video because they know they have an audience.
It's just funny though.
It's a cool concept, so it's kept it alive. And you have Gross, he's awesome. I think he's really good, and he started as a great character. Like this gun nut or whatever. Like he started as a good character, and basically the concept and that character and that actor, they've been able to shoulder that franchise.
So like I said, Trick is something. Is a morbid curiosity. You can check it out if you want. I know it's got pretty low reviews and things like that. So it doesn't hurt my opinion anybody involved with it. It just seems like kind of a misfire in terms of like budget or timing or
I was
whatever.
looking at your notes, and there's something that starts with the H, season 2, and at first I thought I said Hitler season 2. Like, what the hell you?
Oh, those are my private movie shows I've been watching.
I couldn't remember what all we talked about.
Yeah, it's Hellier. But
Yeah,
I just thought you said Hitler season 2.
So I think I talked about Hellier before. It starts out talking about goblins in Kentucky, and then it goes into
who are the goblins?
Who are the goblins?
Who are the goblins?
They should have used that clip.
What are
Hellier?
Who are the goblins?
Goblins spelled backwards. Actually, it's not. But the idea is just that it's about goblins, and they go into talking about this ghost stuff and
it's Kentucky based,
Aleister
right?
Crowley and all these things.
How did Aleister Crowley get connected to
Because
Kentucky?
they're talking about magic and invoking pain.
Did they hear about Jimmy Page?
So it's one of those things where I enjoyed watching it. And people like I watched it from once again I watched this while I was doing other things, and from an entertainment perspective, it's like okay, I'll just go and watch this. This is interesting to see where this goes. But yeah, like, and then like the interesting threads in it, like they've said they didn't. Somebody was telling them that there's like a murder cult in Kentucky and stuff like that, and then they said, well, they only covered a little bit in the documentary because they didn't want to go down that path. And they said, we did hand things off to the appropriate people and blah, blah, blah. But then it's also like I looked into some of it myself because there was like the sheriff that got killed in was it Somerset or something? I looked into it, and it's because his deputy set him up in some kind of almost like Coen Brothers scheme where he tried to the deputy got a criminal. He contracted him to kill the sheriff so that he would win, so the sheriff would be dead, and then he could win the election. And his plan was to double cross the criminal and kill him and be the town hero and then get elected. But the guy hired to kill the sheriff did it in front of a bunch of people very, very poorly and got caught immediately. And then they both went to jail. So it's kind of like a Coen Brothers, like Fargo. It's like a Fargo thing. As
you'd kind of expect a hitman in Somerset, Kentucky to do.
So it's just, but then they were claiming that he was killed because he was researching like the murder cult and stuff. It's like, well, it seems like there's kind of a buttoned up reason to happen now. That could be it's all a conspiracy. But it's just like, in Kentucky, there is a town where a bunch of people died and there's pretty widely believed there's corruption and stuff going on. So but the elements I'm more interested in they didn't touch on because I really don't care about a lot of the supernatural stuff like a ghost box I could give. I do not care about a ghost box. A ghost box is garbage science.
It's still kind of fun, but
it's like, oh, let's have a thing that switches. Let's have a thing that switches channels a bunch, and then when you pick up static, it's not a coincidence. It's fate, and it's proof.
Well, the only thing I think I give I like
what's in a ghost box. I don't know what it is.
It's a box that switches radio frequencies really quickly, and the idea it's not supposed to be able to pick up like individual words or sounds. It's supposed to change channels super frequently, and the idea is that the spirit world can manipulate that to make words come through. So if you're listening to a spirit box, you're like, "What's my name?" and then it's like Sean. It's like, oh, that's proof there's a ghost that's here that heard it. But a lot of times it's not it saying Sean, it's just a part of a radio channel saying, and then you think it said that.
Yeah, but there are some like...
Just like when you think you see a boob on a static TV.
Yeah. But we also both like...
You want to see it, so you saw it.
We also like BuzzFeed and Saw, and they use that a lot.
But the one guy hates it and says it solves nothing. And there's times where it literally pulls through like
actual radio.
A few seconds from a radio.
Then there's like one where they ask him what color jacket he's wearing. It's like brown and white. And it's like, to me, when you hear stuff that takes longer than a second that is coherent, I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I don't think that's proof, but I think that's more interesting than... But then they also got the infamous apple tater.
So then I really want some of those apple taters. They were doing some investigation. What came to the spirit box, it sounded like it said apple taters. So they had one of the cooks from BuzzFeed make an apple tater dish, and it looked amazing.
Yeah.
Julie and I want to make this at some point, but just the idea is like, to me, a lot of the ghost box, the spirit box, whatever, it's a lot of junk science, doesn't prove anything.
It's something that it would creep you out.
Well, there's like the apps on your phone that are supposed to do the same thing, but
it's fun, but I don't put a whole lot of credence into it,
So here's the thing. How many people do you know have said they woke up in the middle of the night because they heard a voice saying their name and there's no one there? What you heard was a noise, and then your brain, like humans are pattern recognizing animals, so your brain just hears a sound and just fits it to something that it thinks that makes the most sense because your name being said makes more sense than the sound of a tree branch scraping on your window as it falls off the tree. Or
How many
something.
times have you had where you're like half asleep and you remember like getting a phone call and you're answering and you're talking and you wake up and your phone didn't ring and you weren't talking, you know, or like I've
never.
You've never done that?
No, like I've never thought I've heard my name.
Well,
nothing.
like I've thought I've had phone calls before.
No,
And
I've
I answer
never.
and I'm talking. I wake up and like I'm not talking on the phone.
So in the house,
I'm either out or I'm awake.
So the house that I used to live in, that was, I think you've been there a couple of times when I had like the big house on Bardstown Road that was like the 100-year-old plus house.
That house is creepy.
Me and my two friends,
by yourself.
we had 2,200 square foot of this old house that was built in like the late 1800s, early 1900s. And one night when I was asleep in bed, I remember hearing like it sounded like someone said my voice, and I like woke up and looked around and stuff. And then what it probably was one of the roommates or somebody in the house talking, and just the sound carried, and they didn't say my name, they're just talking, and my brain just interpreted it that way.
Or they were talking trash about you.
They're like, yeah, well, look at him. He's up there in his bedroom.
One thing I'll do
We
a
need to
lot,
get him out of here.
and I think I've talked about before, it's called exploding head syndrome. And you'll be asleep and you'll hear a
Your head
huge...
explodes.
No, it's not that. You hear a real loud noise and wake you up. And you didn't actually hear loud noise, just your brain hears... I have 4 dogs, and you all been over my house, and you hear how...
Your brain
easily-
expects a dog sound.
Well, no, you just think like it could sound like somebody breaking the window out, or like, you know, taking a pan and hitting it together. Like I work in a shop, it just sounds like a real loud noise. So in my house, if I wake up after hearing a real loud noise and my 4 dogs are sleeping on the bed, I know I didn't hear it because they would be freaking out. But like I do that a lot, but you have to be in certain stages of sleep to do it. And it'll wake you up suddenly. Or like my wife will be out. You know, she'll be asleep and the 4 dogs will be asleep. I'm like, okay, obviously I didn't hear anything.
Well, sometimes if I wake in the middle of the night, it's because my fat cat jumped off something.
Yeah, but you'll hear,
Pop.
but like your cat will jump and hear a noise, but your brain interprets it really loudly, and you wake up and you're like, oh crap, I got a cat named Wednesday. Like Wednesday knocked something over, so I get up and walk through the house and nothing's knocked over, and that's what it was. You just
Let's see. So other stuff. Rewatched some Scott Pilgrim. I hadn't watched it again in a while.
supposed to be making a sequel.
What's
Really?
funny though is
Talks of it.
what's funny is the beginning that like some of that movie doesn't hold up as well as I remember because it's like, oh, he's in his 20s dating a 17-year-old. That plays differently today.
No, I think I played the same.
I think it plays a little
I mean,
different.
I don't think so. Like they call him out in the movie too. Like
They do, but
At the time, I thought that was like, oh, like the whole thing is like he's not a good guy, really.
Well, I'm just saying, I think that in today's world, the production side might want to tweak it where she's 18 or something.
No, because he never does anything. Like they barely hold hand. Remember, don't they just barely kiss in it? Like that's part of the story, though.
I'm just saying, it's something that like so nothing against anybody involved with it. It's just one of those things that plays a little bit differently in 2020 than it did in 2010.
I don't think so.
I think in the post, Weinstein.
he was supposed to be. He was supposed to be. Like he was getting called out for that.
The entire movie was an immature guy working through his insecurities in this very visual, straightforward way. My point was just, I think that people, like when I rewatched, I was like, oh man, like I think you would get a lot more stuff as a 22 or 3-year-old dating a 17-year-old today than you would have back when I was like in college or high school or whatever. But it doesn't change the movie's still good.
Yeah.
It was just kind of funny to think about it through that lens. Finally finished Silicon Valley. Watched season 5 and 6.
So not being able to even start that, we haven't watched anything really.
Season 5 was still pretty good. I mean, they were still entertaining. There's still funny moments throughout. The show just felt different in the last couple of seasons. It didn't really have the same momentum that it used to have. Some of it felt a bit more forced.
So what season is this? The final one?
The final one is 6.
Okay, so I watched season 5. I just haven't seen season 6.
Whatever. There was the season after TJ Miller left.
Yeah, I watched that one.
Was still pretty good. And then the season after that was still entertaining, but it didn't have the same momentum that like season 1 or 2 did. I mean, but most shows can't maintain like the lightning in the bottle you have during like a couple season spurt. Like The Office, even Arrested Development, these new seasons and stuff.
So did it end well though?
Like I enjoyed it, and it made sense for the context of the show.
Yeah.
It did feel like the series kind of had a rinse and repeat of they're successful, now they're not.
Oh, yeah.
Now they're successful, now they're not. And then the final season kind of did a little bit of something with that.
Yeah.
But
that's how Trailer Park Boys also. Every season they get arrested. Next season they get out of jail.
Let's see.
And it becomes funny after a while because it's like, oh, you just keep doing. That's how Silicon Valley is. Like they minor spoilers, but it starts when like they hit on something, they start getting really successful in the season, and then they do something to screw it up and they're back at square one and they're like, oh wait, we got a new idea, and then they do it again, they lose like their money or their status. Like, it's kind of funny, you know?
Let's see. Now I watched a couple of things on Shudder, so I watched some more episodes of Creepshow, and it's
Creepshow.
Okay, so it seems like they plugged all their budget in the first couple episodes, which did not feel expensive to begin with. And it's just like, man, some of these segments without singling them out just felt like stuff that we've seen at film festivals that we would probably not stay through.
Do they? You know, I mean, I know they're probably not spending a lot of money, but man, can they do like a co-producing thing with Blumhouse? Like, he knows how to squeeze every penny. You know what I mean? Like, they talk about how he knows how to produce so well.
You have really
Are they like just not using the money well?
I don't know if it's that. I think it's that. So, you know, like the first episode had the one segment that had Tobin Bell and Giancarlo Esposito. So, you know, from Saw and Breaking Bad and Spike Lee movies and stuff. So you have, you know, it's a pretty well-known cast.
The only one I remember is Adrian Barbeau one. Which one did they do? What was their story? Or was it?
Well, there was the one about like the hurricane.
That's the only one I remember.
And then the other one was the Dollhouse.
Oh yes, that was cool.
And that one's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was like conceptually good.
That was cool.
But then there was one that Rob Schraub had done that was about like Nazi werewolves, or werewolves and Nazis or whatever.
So they kind of took the idea from
Rob Zombie.
No, Werewolf in London.
Oh,
because remember they have the Nazi werewolves that like slit his throat in the dreams.
Yeah, isn't there a werewolf woman of the SS?
Well,
the Rob Zombie fake trailer?
Yeah, this wasn't.
You remember that from Grindhouse?
Yeah.
The Nazis weren't the werewolves; they were werewolves and Nazis. But so it was,
but
totally different thing.
Yeah, but Werewolf in London, they had like the dream sequences where they're werewolf Nazis.
So the later episodes I watched, the concept didn't feel all that great, and some of them are kind of goofy. There's one that had like a little dragon creature that was killing people and stuff. There was a puppet that had I'm forgetting the actor's name, but he was in a bunch of stuff in the 90s, like a really thin dude. He was also like on Breaking Bad in a small role, and I have to look it up.
Was he Skinny Bane? Do you know? You don't know how. Remember Skinny Bane from the whatever Batman movie that had the Bane in it?
Oh.
You had the real Skinny Bane, then you got the stuff from Poison Ivy, got bulked up. Skinny Bane.
But just the episodes
Skinny Bane.
Just seemed like they didn't have the greatest concepts and they didn't have a lot of budget behind them. And it's like, okay, I mean, hopefully they'll keep making more and get better and have more. I think they should, if the level of resources they have or what was on display, because one of them had some like fire effects that looked like something I would do without any time or prep. Just kind of putting effects layers on a video, and it's just like, oh man, this is. I get that you don't need a huge budget to sell every story, but when something's like, oh, this is like super fake digital effects just overlaid on a video clip, it kind of draws you out of it. So it's just one of those things where it's like, man, like hopefully maybe for the next season what they should do if they can't get more money behind it, let's just say they get a budget of $200,000 or something. Mm-hmm. Instead of just farming it out and people mostly self-funding and just getting a little bit of money, maybe they say, let's make 4 really good episodes.
Yeah.
Because I would rather see that than, some relatively thin premises stretched out to 20 minutes without any money behind it.
Who knows if they see that people trail off on the series too. You know what I mean? Like if they say, hey, they only watched like 3 episodes. Is that a quality thing? Let's just make 4 episodes, Yeah,
I mean, who knows? I mean, like, some of those things, like, I don't begrudge them if they did, and it's, but it doesn't, like, the production level of any of these new ones was lower than the original film, which wasn't exactly a big budget production back in the 80s either. But, you're talking about shooting it on film, and just a lot of digital stuff now just feels really sharp and clean. If you're using standard lenses on a digital camera, it can just look kind of flat and kind of just overly sharp and overly it just doesn't look cinematic. And most times, you can overlook that, but sometimes it just, once you see a number of things like that, you're like,
mm-hmm.
So hopefully it picks up. I'll watch Puppet Master, The Littlest Reich, because that one's on Shudder.
Barbara Crampton's in that, right?
It's Barbara Crampton's in it. She's not a huge role. Thomas Lennon's the main character. So I like him in a lot of stuff. He's Officer Dingle or whatever from Reno 911. He's been on a bunch of different... Yeah. He's on I Love You Man and a bunch of comedic films, a TV series. Guy I really likes, funny a lot of stuff. He's leading this. But, it just felt low budget, the story wasn't great. And then I was like,
He's been watching a lot of Nazi stuff.
Yeah.
Hitler, werewolf.
Well, the only thing I remember about Puppet Master, which I've never watched any of those movies, I just remember there was like a toy magazine that used to come out in the 90s, like Toy Whiz or Toy Whiz. I don't remember what it was.
Don't whiz on the electric fence.
But you remember like the ones I had, they had like, they'd make the little scenes that Robot Chicken kind of took the idea from, where they had like Spider-Man at a party with the Hulk and like he accidentally killed somebody. Like they had in the back, they'd have like toys you could order, and they always had like a horror section too, and they always had the Puppet Master toys.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And I remember the Puppet Master toys always looking kind of cool, and I've seen like different segments from the movies. I never watched one, but that's when I always think of Puppet Master. I always think of little toys.
So what the Puppet Master movies typically give you is, like the original Godzilla films, how it's mostly people talking, and then like out of a 75-minute runtime, you get 15 minutes of fighting.
Yeah, it's kind of.
So these Puppet Master movies are kind of, you get, out of an hour and 45-minute storyline, you get an hour and a half of the human story and 15 minutes of puppet kill.
And I just remember like one of them that I've seen like shorts from, or just shots from different things I follow, is like there's one with the drill hands and drill head, and like some guy falls down and he drills his head in.
So I always remember the cover of those VHSs in the video store when I would go.
They were cool.
They own in like the Silence of the Lambs cover. And Dead Alive.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where like, and two, I think those movies mostly existed as like a direct-to-video thing, and I think they were like even PG-13 for some of them, weren't they?
Were they?
And they would I remember listening to some stuff about the creator of the series. I typed in Puppet Band.
Puppet Band.
Puppet Master. Because those were like, was it Robert Band?
Who knows?
Well, David Schmoller. Who was the writer? Charles Band. Charles Band was like kind of the guy that kind of came up with it. And it's funny that a lot of those movies are mostly just the puppet designs. I remember them saying that you get like a lot of kids even sending them like designs for the puppets, saying like, we think it should look like this. Because what does it say what the rating was? It was R. I don't know why I was thinking that. Maybe there was PG versions they showed on TV or something, but they said a lot of kids watched them and send them like, "Oh, I love this puppet.
That's
Here's my
funny.
puppet design."
Because it's something, again, you go back to what I just said about that toy magazine.
It's a cool design.
It's a cool design, and they were marketing them in the toy magazines, and you could order them. And I always remember wanting to order one, just not having the money because I was like 7 or 8. But that's when you tell me Puppet Master, I go back to looking at that magazine in the back, and remember they had like Gizmo, and they would have the Puppet Masters, and they had like Chucky and the head up. I remember the Puppet Masters being the big thing, because he had all the different little, And
what's funny is, so the Lewis Reich was written by S. Craig Zoller, who's made Bone Tomahawk, Dragged Across Concrete, those other movies. So it's funny.
Yeah, is that produced through like
the Fangoria stuff?
Yeah, in which that's all part of the same conglomerate. What is that guy's name that is kind of running all that? So he's also running Fangoria, but also he is the one that I think he may have produced, Bliss, VFW, Dragged Across Concrete. I think he also produced those films.
Dallas Sagne.
Maybe that might be it.
Yeah, because he did Dragged Across Concrete,
yes.
Bone Tomahawk, Brawl,
so that makes
Brawl
sense.
and Cell Block 99.
Did he do Bliss and VFW?
He did VFW. I don't see Bliss on here.
Okay.
But what was I saying? But yeah, the Lewis Reich. I guess you're a fan of that series, is fine. If you're a fan of kind of just low budget, low brow horror, it's fine. I got incredibly bored.
Is it funny at all?
Not really. Like I said, like Thomas Lennon is like a good screen presence and is enjoyable to watch in most things. So like his scenes, it's enjoyable because he's in it, but it's not top flight material.
Yeah.
Like if you could, so instead of what they did, like having Thomas Lennon and a David Wayne puppet master would be something I would be all in on. Who like David Wayne, who did like Wet Hot American Summer and a bunch, different comedies and role models and stuff. So having like that type of irreverent humor with the inherent silliness of a former Nazi's murder puppets, like, so, it's just funny because like.
Did you guys ever watch the Reno movie?
Went to the Miami one?
Yeah.
I've seen parts of it.
I went to the theaters to watch that, and then I watched it again not that long. It's very good. It's
Reno 911 is one of those shows I think at the time I was also like 10 when it came out.
Oh, it's so good.
But it holds up really well,
So the whole concept of the movie, because they go to Miami and it's like, oh, how are they, you see the trailers and basically they're being cops in Miami. It's like, why are they cops in Miami? Like, they are all going to a police convention in Miami. And there's so many people that cameo in there. I can't remember. I think The Rock might be in it. So like he's like this like big police officer. It's somebody like The Rock. But anyway, they go to Miami, this big police convention, and they're kind of like laughing stocks. They don't even, and they may not let them into it because of something. So all the police officers are in there, and because they don't let them in, there is some sort of outbreak inside or terrorist thing, and basically all the police officers in this entire city are trapped inside this building. So the people from Reno have to be police officers for the entire community of Miami. So they're just like getting alligators out of pools. There's like 10 of them. And like there's like, of course, this big like conspiracy going on.
Somebody posted something from it on Twitter the other day, and it's the blonde-headed woman that's the cop.
Yeah.
And she pulls a guy over for a DUI, and she's making him do the test, and it turns out to a full-out ballet thing. And he's like, Pele. And she's doing all these different things, and he's doing all these dance moves, and it's like, that's just, because that show work is just dumb little cutaways.
Yes,
like that.
And they're improv. But I think they used a lot of bits. I think they reused some bits from the show, if I remember correctly. But like, if you haven't watched the show, I think that's the movie, one of those sketch movies where they kind of do that. But Nick Swartzen's in it. Like, there's payoff.
I just remember too when Officer Dangle gets the new boots and he's like doing the hop around.
Yeah. That movie's good too. I like that movie.
Well, it's just funny because a lot of stuff from like Trailer Park Boys, Arena 911, people show like in little splits on Facebook. They're probably giving those new life.
Yes. Oh yeah, for sure.
Which is hilarious. I'm trying to think other stuff I watched. There's some stuff there's crossover. The Dracula Netflix series. It's only a few episodes. It's kind of like the BBC Sherlock, where it's only 3 or 4 episodes for an entire season. The episodes are an hour and a half.
So how did you like it?
I enjoyed it. Like, it was okay. I don't think it's like my favorite adaptations of Dracula.
Yeah.
Because in recent years, I've seen Dracula Actors Theater, rewatched like the Bram Stoker Dracula, the Coppola one. And so like I thought it was fine. It didn't do like the set in the original time frame Dracula film and what was it, early 1900s, late 1800s England for most of it or whatever, and the Abbey and all that.
They did not do that.
They kind of jump across timelines and stuff.
Okay.
So it's and then there's some like I don't know if it's a spoiler. There's like some modern day stuff. So it doesn't do the exact same thing that the old one's already done. The ending is kind of like a flu Harry Potter, this thing that or It Chapter 2, like, oh, the power of our thinking can end this, which is funny because the short film I'm working on, I'm kind of going in that direction. But a lot of times it's because I get why you go in that direction, because it's like, well, you don't want to do something that's so, cliched that you just, stab him with a stake and now he's dead.
Wait a minute. Like Napoleon Dynamite type steak where they fling an actual beef steak?
They throw a steak on his face and he's like, oh, that hurt real bad. So, like, I enjoyed it. I don't think it was, like, any of my top whatever of the year, but it was like, if it's on Netflix, I would recommend checking it out. And if you don't like the first episode, you're not going to like the rest of it, I don't think.
Yeah.
If you're digging the first episode, then the rest of it's enjoyable. And they give them, like, a little bit of a good twist on, like, the Van Helsing stuff. And, it has a lot of the characters you're aware of, but handles them differently than you'd seen before.
This is Hugh Jackman Van Helsing. I don't want to see it. And you turn it off at that point. And put on Van Helsing.
Let's see, I watched You season 1 and 2.
What?
You.
Oh.
The Netflix. So it was like
the show everybody's obsessed with.
You was initially a Hallmark Channel show or whatever. Not Hallmark. What's
not Hallmark?
Lifetime?
Yeah.
Lifetime. And then it came out, kind of came and went. It came out and came and went, and it went to that damn there Netflix. And then people really picked it up because it's essentially about a guy's inner monologue who is kind of like I'm a good guy and she's only going after the jerks.
All the internet people.
But the twist is he's not just the guy who thinks that. He does a lot worse stuff. So like season 1 is kind of like that. It was kind of interesting because I'd started watching it, never finished, then just finished it when I was working on other stuff. once again, this is one of the didn't devote my full attention to, but watched it while I was doing other stuff shows. And season 1 was fine. Season 2 kind of really got into Dexter territory because it's a show where it's, a handsome-ish white dude's internal monologue as he goes through things. And season 2 really did get to be resembling Dexter more with the situations he got himself in and the way the storylines went. So it's kind of like Dexter light, really.
Locale Dexter.
So kind of trash TV, entertaining. Some people could take the wrong message away from it, but I think at this point, I think it's so pulpy though that I don't think anybody, because the character's sitting there saying like, she's with this guy, he's the worst, as he's sitting there over a dead body. So I think that the show gives you enough to be like, this isn't a good guy. You're just following this person who's entertaining. And they give you some backstory, but they don't give you enough to justify it. They just help explain it. And I guess he follows the typical behavior of a serial killer or sociopath in terms of like child upbringing and stuff. But so not necessarily like top flight TV, but if you want kind of like a Dexter light show, that and in the second season, the main girl who plays the character of her name is Love. I was like, what is she from? She also played the sister Ness in Haunting of Hill House. And I was like, that's why her face is so familiar. It's on all the freaking posters for Haunting of Hill House. So it's an interesting show. John Stamos is in it for a little bit.
John Stamos.
There's like a few people that pop up here and there, and season 2 has a few more comedians and stuff in it. So not essential watching, but it's interesting. And there's just stuff from it that's really goofy. There's a lot of plot holes. It's like, well, there's a lot of security cameras here, and then it really comes into play that people go in here and go missing, and there's security cameras.
You don't go to a Lifetime show for.
Well, it's a Lifetime, or they shelved it, and then it went to Netflix as part of like the deal of stuff they sold them, I guess, and then it blew up on Netflix, so then Netflix made season 2.
You think that like, damn it.
Well,
another
here's the thing,
small
though.
town.
How many people have access to and watch Showtime or Lifetime versus Netflix?
Probably more people have Lifetime.
Let's see. So other stuff worth mentioning that other people have watched. Sean, did you watch any of The Outsider on HBO?
No, I tried to last night, but I had to stay up working on a video and did not get to. But I was going to at least try to watch the first episode.
So it is a new series on Netflix, or not Netflix, HBO. Everything's on it's HBO. It's Stephen King story. Has Jason Bateman in it. Has Ben Mendelsohn. And for like the first time in a while, he's not like a big villain like Ready Player One or Rogue One. He's like a cop. And it's basically where there's a murder that happens of a young boy, and Jason Bateman's character is accused of it. But there's contradictory evidence because there is video of him and people who are witnesses that saw him around town the day the murder happened. Mm-hmm. And then he was also somewhere else. So it's Stephen King, so there are some supernatural elements to it. So it's not just a straight like crime thriller.
Yeah.
There's stuff going on. And I think we're on episode 4 or 5 because this week's episode came out early because they didn't want to release it on Sunday against the Super Bowl.
I think I looked last night and there was 5 episodes. Yeah, because I was actually going to try to watch it and then worked really late.
Super Bowl.
Through episode 5. So far I'm enjoying it. It's got kind of like a creepy, factor. It's not straight up horror, but there are some horror elements. There's like creepy characters. There's, people dying, and the characters are trying to figure out what's going on. How can somebody be in 2 places at the same time and have DNA at the scene of a crime and all this stuff. So, it's interesting, and it's definitely something that, kind of a real life horror show. If you were accused of a murder and there was video of you there, but you literally weren't there and you were somewhere else, and then you have video of you at something else and proof. So it's like an interesting concept.
Twins.
Now, one thing it did that I know, Sean, like since you pointed out that one documentary about having black characters be kind of mystical and stuff, it has done that a little bit. So I'm not sure if the character in the original Stephen King novel was described as being any ethnicity.
He did that in The Shining, at least, also.
But they have added some layers onto it.
Right, or was he African American in The Shining? Yeah, he was, wasn't he, in the book?
I don't remember. But the point being is, like, I saw that and I was like, oh, I wonder how much they're going to lean into this. But the later episodes have kind of smoothed it out, and it's like not really as overt on that. It kind of goes into it. But so I'm enjoying it. It's definitely, HBO. If you have HBO, I definitely recommend checking it out. Kind of a good off-season show for them because, you have like the big spectacle shows. And this is more kind of like a low-key show, but I'm enjoying it. Let's see. And then the thing, Derek, that you'd also watched was Dragon Ball Super Broly. So, talking about an animated anime film. But this is one that made a lot of money. It was one of the higher grossing animated films. Anime adaptation films. Of all time. So I think there's still ones ahead of it. Because there's that one Japanese with the body switching one that made a crap ton of money. But this one was like very successful and kind of like a low key hit that people didn't really think about, but it still made a lot of money. I remember reading reviews from it from people that had never seen a single second of Dragon Ball Z, and they're like, "This is nonsense." It's like, well, that's kind of anything you go into a series that late in the game. If somebody went in and watched Endgame without having seen the prior Avengers or the prior Marvel films, because those films along the way kind of up the stakes and like, here's magic, here's this, here's that. And if you introduce it one thing at a time,
you'd get it.
When you like the screenwriting stuff, double mumbo jumbo, if you introduce a bunch of types of magic in one thing, it's kind of just kills it for people.
Yeah.
So I can see why if you went in and watched this Dragon Ball Super Broly without having...
So what about like story-wise? Like, I've only watched part of Dragon Ball Z, basically.
It's very self-contained compared to what a lot of the other ones are. Yeah. You basically need to know that there are, because the beginning of it kind of introduces you to the world of the Saiyans and stuff. It kind of gives you the backstory.
It retcons some stuff. Like me and William...
It retcons non-canon movies.
No, it also retcons some of the stuff from the Frieza saga. But there's a little retconning going on, and it retcons, like William said, non-canon movies. Because this is canon, this is set in the world, and if there is ever any more Dragon Ball Super TV shows made, which is up in the air or not if that's going to happen, then this will continue after this took place. But the story, like William says, is pretty self-contained. It sets up what you need to know about Broly and his dad.
So is this a finale to the series, Super?
Possibly. Because
the manga's continued. So pretty much like the way it works.
But I'm saying, like, if you haven't watched the Super show,
should you
watch Super first?
I watched this first before watching Super, so it kind of spoiled.
If you really want to get to speed, there are a couple of prior Super films. There's like the Battle of the Gods,
which condenses that,
and then there's like the Frieza Resurrection or something. So there's a couple of movies that kind of give you the background.
They condense those sagas.
If you're generally aware of what happened in Dragon Ball Z, and you know that they can go Super Saiyan Red and Blue, which are like...
No, I didn't know about Red and Blue. That was
Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan God, and then Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan. Which is essentially just red and blue.
Yeah, I know you posted the other day, and I meant to reply that I'd never heard of Super Saiyan Red or Blue.
Yeah,
they had like the Macy's Day Parade. They had a Super Saiyan Blue Goku or something. Yeah.
Which it's funny because like I really enjoyed it. Again, though, I've been watching. I'm 29, so I've had this in my life for about 20 plus years whenever they started showing it on Toonami.
Yeah.
So even though I've never watched Super I have now almost finished. I got like 3 episodes left. But you going into this, have not watched any Super, but being pretty much aware of everything that's happened. I really enjoyed it. Like maybe this is just me saying this, but I think you take this and you just put it in. Like me, I've made Courtney, my wife, watch a whole lot of stuff. As far as just a vast majority, just like all of us have. And she enjoyed it. And she is somebody who's watched Dragon Ball. She watched that with me when we first started dating. So it was 6 years ago. We're married now, obviously. But anyway, so her knowledge is Dragon Ball when Goku was a kid. And she has not watched anything else. So she really enjoyed it, I think more so than some of the MCU and comic book stuff I made her watch. But I think, too, it's under 2 hours.
Streamlined.
Yeah, all the story beats happen within about the first 30 or 45 minutes. And once the fighting starts, that's it. It's fighting from then on to the rest with a little bit of story beats here and there. But it's like William said, it's really streamlined. The animation's cool. It's the one thing I like about the movies better than the anime shows is since they are condensed into a time frame, like they don't have any drawn out powering up segments.
Yeah.
There's really none of that. And I do think that the humor it's not like you're going to laugh out loud, but it is humorous. It is fun. And one thing I think a lot of these anime shows that were, dubbed in English deserve credit for is the level of voice acting they put out. Because it's the same voice actors from the 90s doing this. I think maybe Frieza's different, but for the most part, like the voice of Goku's been the same for 20 years. Vegeta, Piccolo, Gohan wasn't in this, but the adult Gohan's the same. But
basically, yeah. So the only real knowledge you need to have is that there's Goku and Vegeta,
Yeah.
And they can get powerful Super Saiyan stuff.
Yeah, because those are the only two main characters from Dragon Ball.
There's like some brief stuff, like they introduced the gods of destruction and the angels and stuff in the series. So it's basically just like they're gods. They don't typically get that involved in the mortal affairs.
Yeah, they're not really allowed.
They're like, huh.
Yeah.
They may have rooting interest, but they don't actually get, step in. And then the rest of the stuff, it gives you all the backstory on...
Which I think is interesting because a lot of times, like, I'm not too familiar with the Broly stuff from the original. I've seen them, but you're talking about stuff I haven't watched in 20 years or 15 or plus when the last one came out.
Because they came out in the 2000s.
But generally, what I remember about him is just he was just kind of like once in 1,000 year, like Super Saiyan that was kind of evil. And this one, they actually give a reason. They, like he's seen to be like super powerful. So the Prince Vegeta of that planet like ships him to this really far away planet, pretty much so he'd die in isolation. And
Space was like, oh, it's a powerful dude that's more powerful than my kid. So let's get him out of here.
Yeah, and then there's like the arc where like the dad is vengeful on that, and he just spends that entire time in isolation training his son.
So the movie gives you most of stuff. Like, so you do need to generally be a fan or enjoy some of the Dragon Ball stuff to enjoy the movie. But if you do, it's, a lot of fun and it covers most of the ground you would need.
I would probably just wait and watch some of Super and then watch that when I have time, which will be probably a long time, but I'll probably do that.
I think I've been watching Super for 2 weeks now, and I've, some of the episodes there's some filler parts in it, and I've skipped those. So I think it's 131 episodes, and they're only like 20 minutes.
Oh.
So like I said, there's like once each saga ends, there's generally like 5 to 15 episodes that are kind of like filler. So if it was like ones I knew for sure were filler from reading stuff, I skipped them because I don't care much.
See, I don't think I ever finished Z because I think that was going on, and then I got into high school, and my routine just got broken. You know what I mean? Like before, when I was in middle school, my friend and I would like, come home from school, do something for a minute. My mom would make dinner. We'd eat dinner and watch the new episode of Dragon Ball Z, and then go outside and do whatever. Yeah. Like we had a routine, so we did watch it like a lot in middle school, like every day. But then once I got, either summer would hit after 8th grade and then 9th grade, and then I just got out of routine.
Well, and two, it's one of those things where you had a series that, like, I don't know if this is accurate, but let's just say it had 196 episodes.
Something like that.
And then when they redid it in recent years, they made a version that was condensed. It was like 160. So
it went from like 150 to like 90.
I've been conflicted because that's the easiest one to watch now, right, Kai? Yeah. But I'm like, do I want to have the experience of all the frustration and yelling at the show?
I mean, do you want to watch Goku and Piccolo learn how to drive cars?
Yes. I think I would like that.
And then see him go hang out with dinosaurs?
Yeah. Yes. That's what I liked about the show also. That's what I'm saying. They're like, they cut that stuff out. And I'm like, no, I get that. But also,
it flushes
that was some of the charm of the show, like, was being the frustration of like, oh my God, they didn't do nothing this week but power up. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of why I liked it, like being angry at the show.
Well, I think one thing that I like to give, because like I guess I've almost watched all of Dragon Ball Super, and I'll probably try to finish it the day before the Super Bowl comes on. And like McCourtney's watched most of it with me too, and her knowledge of the series as a whole is rather limited, but she's enjoyed it. And I do think something that, because like just to kind of take a AV Club, something they posted about their review Dragon Ball Z Kakarot and called it a terrible children's show. And it's like, man, I don't think so, because I've watched a bunch of the cartoons from when I was a kid. I went and revisited like Spider-Man, X-Men, and there's so many. Like Batman holds up. Batman was
good.
Now, but like Dragon Ball and a lot of these animes, I think they hold up too.
Well, I think that like it's just might being edgy going for clicks that they're controversial on it. So you can go into anything that has a fan base, and so Transformers. Yeah, it's like, oh, this show where they couldn't even bother to make the colors match from scene to scene, where the robots change colors because they miscolored it, and there's all these things where they reuse animations and stuff. Like you can hate on anything. It's just.
I think one thing that like stuff I like about and like I said, my experience with anime is rather limited. I look at.
I've watched stuff like Death Note, and I've watched other things, and it's definitely. Like Dragon Ball Z is very much shirtless dudes fighting each other.
Yeah, but
now, the newer series does introduce more female characters that have importance. But just like some stuff like Death Note's a little bit more cerebral, and it's more about the cat and mouse game between people.
But one thing that I think you get in Dragon Ball that you don't get in almost any of like Marvel or DC stuff is you do get character growth, and you grow with the characters. Because if you started watching Dragon Ball Z as a kid, you're in your 30s. We're all in our 30s now. I'll be 30 this year. So I've been watching this show for 2/3 of my life. And then one thing that's nice is to have aged the characters. It's not like where you go watch you know, X-Men, and there's the same age from now to here. You know, where in those cartoons, the voice acting is pretty bad, especially that in Spider-Man and like Iron Man.
Some of those are like, some things have better arcs than others.
Well, those were made, you know, they wanted to make money.
Yeah,
Let's get
that
these
was what's
properties. But you know what I mean? Like, Dragon Ball Z was like, oh, the original creator made a manga. Okay, we're going to do it as a series. Like, you know what I mean? There was a lot more care taken into it.
But you look at something like Batman animated series, which that was for money too, but that was good.
I think didn't Spielberg, didn't he have something to do with that? You know, I think those people came from Tiny Toons maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
On to Batman, and like, you know, they came there with all that talent, and
Whereas like Batman was very much like episode to episode.
People forget that show created Harley Quinn.
I started watching Mask of the Phantasm the other day again.
Movie.
Yeah,
those have aged well.
Prior to the Dark Knight, I'm like, that was maybe the best Batman movie.
See, I only watched it once when I worked at GameStop, actually the one that just closed, because I was in there working and my friend I was talking, he's like, wait, you haven't seen that one? And he brought it in one day, we watched it, but I like half watched it. You know, I was working, but we were never busy in there. So I started again because I bought it digitally one day just because I'm like, I remember liking it. But yeah, I watched like the first half of it and it's really good.
But just like with like Dragon Ball Super Broly, so if people liked the original series and they're just, if they generally like it, like I said, I don't know that you need to watch like 139 episodes to catch up, but
I didn't. I watched it first.
But I'm saying like, I'm saying like, would I get this? If you're getting enjoyment, you're getting enjoyment. So I could just like piecemeal the show. If I watch 5 episodes, I'm going to get a ballpark same enjoyment as watching the movie, right? You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm saying. Like I don't want to.
The only thing is I'll say about the movie is that it is such a faster pace.
Yeah.
Like if this was a saga, it would have been drawn out for probably 20, 30, 40 episodes, whereas this is condensed into an hour and 43 minutes.
And I like the fighting and stuff in that, but I just love all the little character moments. Like that's why I like Dragon Ball. You know what I mean? Just like the goofy, like the goofy stuff of the show. And actually you talked about like driving a car. I like the way the cars look. All the vehicles. I just love looking at the design of that show. So that's why I'm like, if I just watch the series, you know what I mean? Like, I just like looking at it.
Would enjoy Dragon Ball more because that's when like Bulma first get introduced and they do a lot more of the capsule stuff.
I started watching that, and I told you I had the trial of Funimation or whatever. I got it, and I did watch the first episode of Dragon Ball and was like, oh, do I want to keep this? And I was like, I got too busy to watch another one for the trial.
I have all of them on DVD, but like I like that because that one you get to play a lot more like me personally, because I haven't finished Dragon Ball but Super, but I've seen enough. Like to me, I like Dragon Ball the most, then Dragon Ball Z, and then Dragon Ball Super. You know, none of them bad. They're all really good. Well, you have to be
the main complaint that people have made is that at a certain point in the series, it just got to all be about like powering up to a new form and power levels, and then the power levels make no sense because people
and that's probably too why it was easier to walk away like after like I got busy in my schedule because I'm like, okay, I like this show, but it is just a series of escalations.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, just like
and that's what it is.
Yeah,
when they got that many episodes.
Yeah, but just the thing too is like, and even in Super, you know, there are certain characters that but you have to make them powered up, or you wouldn't have a show. You know,
need to have a threat, and you need to have escalation because
otherwise, if Goku could just walk over and flick somebody across the TVs. I think one of the funnest things is just talking about like this is beginning the Buu Saga and they're doing the martial arts tournament. And they had to go and you have a punch machine that rates your power level, and that's how they seed everybody in the tournament. And just watching all of them like trying to barely like hit everything. So like Goku flicks it, Android 18 barely. Then Vegeta just punches it through the wall and it flies out through the stadium. Like that stuff's fun.
What is that the new Dragon Ball Z game? Dragon Ball
Z Fighter. Oh yeah, and Dragon Ball Z
Kakarot.
No,
not Fighter. Kakarot.
Yeah.
Which is people said not that great.
Yeah.
But I saw a video somebody posted online. I guess when you're playing the game and you turn on one of the sensors, you see people's power level.
Yeah.
So they were flying. Did you all see that video? So they're flying around and like somebody's power level and they're like glowing like orange. You know, it's like maybe, you know, like a few feet out and somebody else is like maybe like 5 feet out.
Yeah.
And they look at, I don't know if it was like Frieza or who, but they turn and they're like, what's this orange light? They turn, it is making the entire screen so you can see what's power level. And it's like, oh, that's why people were freaking out in the show. They could see his power level. Yeah. So yeah, that stuff's fun in there.
Yeah, it's fun. Like I said, a lot of it is like, those shows I think take a lot more because it is constantly flowing in time. It's something you have to put more interest in, whereas something you can hop in like a Batman cartoon. The time really never passes.
You're talking about like serialized like cartoons and stuff, and like not as Dragon Ball, but like anime in general was mostly serialized back in that in the 80s even, and it took United States a while to get more of the serialized storytelling in animated series. or TV series too. I mean, there were some series that did off and on, but like Twin Peaks was kind of, when it came out in the late 80s, early 90s, or whatever, was kind of like the exception to the rule, because a lot of stuff was just like, you might have a continuing storyline to some extent.
Like X-Files.
Each week it resets.
Yeah, X-Files is like that.
Well,
X-Files,
like, even less than that. Like there's
what was
the
like?
cop shows.
There was a couple in the '80s that was it Hill Street Blues or
Well, you had like Dallas and stuff. I mean, you had stuff where they continued the story.
Well, look at
Dallas is like a soap opera.
We had like Law and Order SVU, which you had maybe one season have one kind of story string that stretched the entire season, but then you might have 4 or 5 episodes in between where they're just crime of the day.
I'm trying to think, like, too, you would have stuff where, like the A-Team, where mostly every single episode reset.
Yeah.
They might have a couple of story elements that would stretch out and they would reference, but a lot of times, like Arrested Development, a lot of times when that ended, you have a character in a very precarious situation, like the next on, and then the next episode drops it completely.
Yeah.
And it felt like TV did that for a long time unintentionally.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why I like Dragon Ball so much, because you can go through and kind of watch it. And like, for me, there's like certain, okay, I'm going to just break down the sagas real quick because that's not spoilers. no, I'm not getting into it. I'm just saying listen to the sagas. You have the Battle of the Gods saga, and then you have the Frieza Rebirth saga, and then you have the Goku Black saga, and then you have the Tournament of Power saga. And I think the Goku Black saga is probably my favorite of that franchise.
And this is of Super?
This is of Super. And then the Power,
I thought you were breaking out every saga of the Power series.
So many. But then which I like that one the most, is the current one, which I'm almost done with the Battle Power saga. But there are some emotional. It's funny to watch a cartoon, but again, you've been following these characters so long. There are emotional beats, and you get a good vibe of the characters. I think this is why I like the show, because you get to see growth of characters. Mm-hmm. You don't always get to see that in animated shows where, like a lot of times they don't last long enough to do that. I think each one of the series has hundreds of episodes. Whereas like Dragon Ball,
insane.
Yeah.
I wish Funimation would get rolled up into somebody. Crunchyroll's getting rolled up, I guess, into Warner Brothers. I don't know. And other stuff, but I wish Funimation would get rolled up into something, But
I think Funimation is one of those things that is probably big enough that it would be harder to do, because they have a big catalog.
You need to do a big acquisition. I mean, but like,
but you say that, but I mean, like Disney bought Fox.
Well, yeah,
you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Like, all these streaming companies, they're like, you could see Netflix being like, we're buying Funimation because we want to,
The only thing that worries me is I wouldn't want a company like Disney to get Funimation.
No, I wouldn't either.
Because then I feel like the quality of stuff they put out would probably go, because I like it because it's.
Well, I'm saying at least like acquire them as like, hey, we're rolling our streaming stuff into theirs.
Even the quality of the individual, episodes or whatever may go up, but the boundaries of the storytelling
go down. Yeah, because now it's like
they may have more focused storytelling.
I'm trying to watch a modern day interpretation of any of the comic book stuff, and
it's really funny.
Almost impossible.
It's really funny because, like, with the Dragon Ball Super manga or Dragon Ball Z or whatever, you read see the manga stuff, like they're cussing and.
Oh yeah, I mean the actual cartoons.
Well, the original cartoons.
Well,
even like in the movie and stuff, they're like, "Damn it."
Yeah, well, even in like the uncut version.
Well, they show nudity in the Japanese anime.
That was more in Dragon Ball, because and there was a lot of things have changed since then, because like there was a lot of sexual jokes toward women, and a lot of that's gone away.
Master Roshi was like a creeper.
There's one arc in Super where that is, and then they pretty much they cut that out.
So have you watched other noteworthy stuff, Derek?
No, I've been watching Super, so that's taking up most of my time.
Dragon Ball Z Super.
I watched Bliss. From, let's see what the director's name is, Joe Bagos, and he also did VFW, which people seem to like a whole lot. That is not out yet on. I don't think it's out to rent anywhere, but that has been in festivals and stuff. Bliss is, let's see here, what is the description? In need of creative inspiration, a professionally stagnant and hard-partying Los Angeles artist recklessly indulges in a series of drug binges. As the narcotics fly out of control, so does her newfound explicable yet unquenchable craving for blood. So it's essentially kind of a vampire film, but it's also one of those movies that is like the artist looking for inspiration and also under deadline thing.
Like, which is a very heavily used trope.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, and I think it's shot on 16 millimeter. It looks very good, and you guys were talking about Jacob's Ladder. There's some Jacob's Ladder feeling moments in this film, I think, or at least even the sensation of kind of this disoriented like aspects of some of the situations she's in because she's on drugs, and also, again, this is what the film is. It comes a little bit late, but she's kind of like part vampire essentially, so she's like kind of freaking out. She's worried about like her deadlines and her creative inspiration, all this stuff. It looks great. A lot of people love this film. And I like that it has, I don't know, it does have such a feel and texture to it. I love the shots kind of like outside in LA when the sun's coming down, shooting on 16, driving around in the car and stuff like that. Like, it looks good. But I will say that I haven't seen this complaint. And I hate to go after anybody individually, but honestly, the main actress, she doesn't seem like she really embodies the role. Like, there are so many F-bombs in this movie. I looked up to see what the number was because I think this could be on that list. I don't know why, but recently I was looking at the list of like the movies with the most F-bombs.
Yeah.
And I think this movie will be on that list for sure. Probably the top 10.
Did Fred Durst write or direct this?
First Durst?
No. But
Fred Durst.
Durst.
But the thing about like when she says it, it's, and I'm wondering if it's because, I don't know if she's from LA or whatever. I don't know if it's because I'm used to us and how people locally, drop the F-bomb and how we sound and it's in, everyday use. Hers doesn't sound like it's in her normal everyday use, and she says it a lot in the film. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds like she's not maybe totally comfortable saying it, but
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, but who reminds me of? And this is, again, I think it's the accent, and I think that it's probably more. It reminds me of Sherry Moon Zombie.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, where it's like that doesn't sound like that's actually how you talk, but she probably does.
Yeah.
And nobody else has called this out, and it's probably just because, again, maybe I'm used to that accent.
Or you're not used to like the West Coast.
Yeah, I don't know. It just feels, and so because of that, her character feels less authentic.
I just like when you're like, hey, can you hand me the fucking eggs?
Yeah.
Can you give me some fucking water?
They will say the
I
F
need
word.
the butter, you dumb.
No, here's the thing. I noticed they were saying the F word twice in the same sentence a lot of times.
So I don't give
what the F are you doing with that effing thing? Like, they will say it. I mean, it is non-stop.
So it's kind of like somebody just discovered that word.
Yes.
And it's like, you know what? I like,
my mom said I can't say this. I guess I'm going to do this.
What, Mom? I'm writing this in
it's
the
weird
movie.
because, I hate to like, and I'm not trying to go after her. And two, I don't know if it's lack of direction or it is the script. I was wondering if because it's shot on 16 millimeter. I needed to confirm that. I saw somebody say that. I believe it based on looking at it. But I wonder also too if they're like, okay, we got to do like 2 takes on each, shot.
Yeah.
Everybody says it's not as expensive to shoot on digital or film as you think it is, and the cost is comparable when you start working at a certain level.
Yes, if you're shooting on like REs, Reds, the high-end Sonys, the Vericam, if you're shooting like the high-end cameras,
Yeah.
And you're doing all that, the cost between shooting film and digital comes down to like 20, 30 grand tops for most productions. And if you're making a $2 million movie, not a big deal, because what's an extra 20 grand just to get a look you want?
Yeah. So I don't know if that
on the low budget now for us, we're shooting on like the stuff we have, it would, we don't want to have a baseline of $20,000 cost.
Yeah. So I don't know, I don't know if that contributed to it, but it looks really good. The movie looks good. It has a good vibe. I like the music in the film. I definitely think it's worth checking out because it has a mostly unique feel. But again, the story being about like this artist trying to find inspiration. She's under deadline, very much like Devil's Candy in that regard. You remember that film too? As far as just it being this music kind of like music focused film, but also the tortured artist situation. But this is set in LA, different vibe. And I saw one review and I'm like, I kind of agree. They said that this person was older than us, but they said, maybe I'm out of tune with like 20-year-olds And that's how I felt too. Like, am I just out of tune with kind of this whole thing?
Gen Z.
And I love, like,
Zoomers.
I do like stories about like artists trying to figure out what they want to do. And like, I do like some of those. So like 8.5, one of my favorite films of all time. Different feel though, obviously. But they said, this is like the film that every like new filmmaker or creative, they said bad script that every one of them writes and then throws out and doesn't make. And I was like, that's very harsh, but I get that because it does seem like a story that a lot of people like kind of.
It's a well-trod territory.
Yeah, because that is something, okay, well, what am I dealing with? Let me put this on paper.
Well,
and there's just so much about it that does feel familiar, even though it has a different style. And it feels, again, I like just the unique vibe of it through most of the film, but you get to a certain point and some of the gore starts, and the gore visually and tonally is more like out of a slasher.
Yeah.
So then it's almost at odds, like, oh, this has a certain vibe. And even though like maybe some of the deliveries aren't great and the script isn't perfect on the dialogue, I'm at least along for the ride because of the mood that this film is carrying. But then you hit those moments of gore and it almost like it puts a stop to it because then it even breaks an illusion even further. And it's like, wait, this is kind of just going into just, gorehound territory on some regards. And then I hate to say this, but almost cheapens it a little bit. So a lot of people really like it. So I don't think you should not watch it because it is interesting. And George Wendt is in it. Norm from Cheers.
Oh, okay.
He's in it a little bit. But yeah, it's got some cool stuff in there. The F-bomb, I don't know if it's intentionally to desensitize you to hearing it, but it almost like it started drawing it out to me and like grating me even more as it went along.
It felt like with like a lot of stuff, like Tarantino and Kevin Smith really encourage people to try to write like witty, naturalistic dialogue and banter between characters. And, Tarantino did it well, and like Clerks did it well. But the problem is when you get that handled not as well or inauthentic seeming, especially when the characters really don't embody the types of people that are supposed to be doing it. Because a lot of times you go and you watch, short films or you watch like film festival kind of indie films, and every other word out of the character's mouth is a curse word. And it's like, I'm not being a prude, but just people don't talk that way. I mean, some people do.
Well, some people do, but it's fine if they sound like that. Like, people were apparently complaining and some people walked out of Uncut Gems because the amount of cuss words. And I was like, I don't really, and I was watching them like, I even heard that before I went to see it and it just washed over me. Like, apparently there's tons of F-bombs in that film, but I don't even hardly notice them because it feels like the characters are just talking. You know what I mean? Like, It's a totally different thing where it just feels like it's part of their language. This, none of this stuff really felt like organically part of it.
Well,
and apparently she was in Everybody Wants Some, Richard Linklater's, and that is a very loose vibe-feeling film. And
it's just funny to hear though, because like I work in a skilled labor like field, I work in a shop, and if people walked out because they heard like bad language in that, it's like. I mean, we don't ever say that bad, but like everything is like, what the F you do?
Well, can you imagine? Like, I think some of it is, so Tom Hanks, an amazing actor. If you gave him an F-bomb riddled script, it would feel very weird.
You say that though, but I feel like I was.
So here's the thing:
it would in a film, but I think I was watching the Round Table, and he was cussing or saying something. And it sounded natural though from him.
Well, I'm saying like somebody.
But I know what you're saying.
Or, so like Mr. Rogers.
So like my thing is like not even just saying like using cursing here and there because I'm sure he has in movies. But I'm just saying giving him a Rob Zombie script. Where he's in Devil's Rejects thing. Then it's not gonna seem natural. Even if the Oscar caliber actor just sometimes. People just write dialogue.
It's the dialogue,
But when you like to see a movie with like, I'm not saying Tom Hanks is pretentious, okay? I'm not saying that. I'm saying you take people that think are more refined. So you have like Helen Mirren, and you have Tom Hanks, and you have the lady from Devil Wears Prada, the
Meryl Streep,
and who's another like well-regarded like classical actor. I don't know. Just take anybody. You just put them in a movie, and all they do is just cuss, and they have like filthy language. They
could probably sell it though because they would work on it. You know what I mean? They would work on it. Yes. Yeah.
Well, so Helen Mirren, she was in like, wasn't she in Caligula?
She's been in some. Yeah, she's been in.
And then she was in like kind of lowbrow action films and stuff.
But you just take some of that now, or like, you know, but John Malkovich is somebody that could do both.
Yeah.
You know, like you could see him cussing a lot or not. But yeah.
I mean, the film, like I said, I appreciate it. He apparently, after this, he did VFW. Have you seen the trailer for VFW or heard what it's about? I don't know who's attacking them, but it's a cool concept. It's basically these, and I feel like, I don't know if George Wendt is also in that, but these war vets, they're at a VFW post, and somebody comes in there that's getting, I don't know if they're getting chased down by gang members, but almost like Green Room. Yeah. But it's all these old VFW people there. Cool. Yeah, that's an awesome idea for a movie. Let's see if, who's in VFW? Stephen Lang, William Sadler, Martin Cove, I don't know who that, George Wendt, Fred Williamson, and that people seem to like that quite a bit. So I'm interested in seeing that. Like, I definitely will check out this guy at VFW for sure. And nobody else was drawn to that, but it wasn't a bad film.
So where's Bliss available to watch?
Shudder.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on Shudder. It just hit there the other day. I was choosing between that and Luz, I guess.
So real quick, I was watching some old stuff from Saturday Night Live, and they used to have I forgot what the segment's called, but it's like Summer Memories or something. And
Jack Handy's.
Something like that. And it shows like a kid riding down, they go into summer camp, and his head's hanging out the window. Yeah. And then there's a dog coming, and his head's hanging out the window, and they hit heads, and the dog head flies off. I'm like, that's Hereditary. And that's the entire movie to me. So anytime somebody's talking about that movie the other day.
So have you seen all the memes that are like, it's okay if you do this or that? Like, it's okay. They're like, it's okay if you go to a party, and then it's okay if you get high at the party when your sister's there, and then it's okay if you have to drive while you're still high to take her to the hospital. I mean, it's just funny, like, they did that for the Ari Aster movies. Like, it's okay if you go on a vacation with your boyfriend when you should be breaking up, and it's just like all the memes of stuff.
I'm curious to see what he does next. I'm interested.
Like, they should do. So here's an idea: we should get a horror anthology produced through A24, where you have Ari Aster and you have Robert Eggers. And who are some other?
You have to bring your best bottle of Chardonnay.
What's his name? The director of It Follows.
And Robert Mitchell.
Yeah.
Or I don't know,
Jordan Peele.
And just get somebody that doesn't make any sense. Get Jim Jarmusch. And not to make it all male. Get Greta Gerwig to do one because she was in House of the Devil.
Give me the trashiest director you can to direct an A24 film. So give me Rob Zombie directing the A24 film, and I would find.
So here's what they should do. They should hire Rob Zombie at A24 and make Rob Zombie and Greta Gerwig switch their scripts and shoot the other person's movie.
I would watch that.
Rob Zombie's Little Women. In every role with Sherry Moon Zombie.
But again, with A24, they have put out good stuff. But I feel like while you watch that, you have to have a little teacup with your pinky stuck out. And then, if you're going to drink wine, you're like, well, I can't drink wine. I have to drink the finest Chardonnay. And you have to get that out and pour it out. And if it's not like a $1,000 bottle poured into a crystal glass, you just get out. Get out, you vermin. That's A20. No, it's A24.
So other stuff you've watched?
I watched What Did Jack Do on Netflix. Did you watch that?
David Lynch. I have not yet because here's the thing.
You watched 2 seasons of You and you haven't watched What Did Jack Do? 17 minutes.
Here's why I'm respecting David Lynch's wishes because I watched You on my phone. Because a lot of times when I'm working, I just plop my phone on a base in front of me. Yeah. And then I'll just have it playing and not pay attention. And he specifically said, if you think you've watched a movie on your phone, you haven't. So I'm respecting Lynch. I'm going to watch it on the TV.
I wrote a little review and I meant to put it on the site. I liked it, but again, I did not put it on Letterboxd. I didn't put a star review because it is something that I think, it's like putting a star review on a piece of art. Like, you know what I mean? That's not the function of it. It's not to be rated it's not to be graded like that. I enjoyed it. It's funny. It's cool. I hope they can put more stuff out like that. I wish Criterion would start financing some short films like that and putting on there.
Maybe they can do other earnest films with Criterion.
Well, did you see the short film that I don't know how you pronounce her name, the Sodfy brothers or whatever did with Adam Sandler, the New York City performer one? That was pretty fun.
Yeah. You guys, I guess Uncut Gems is hit Netflix in other regions right now.
Did you hear about the newest?
They said they won't come till summer.
Movie that the guy acts as Pee Wee Herman wants to make, the Sodfy brothers.
No, Paul Rudd.
He wants to make a Pee Wee Herman dark movie.
He wants to make a dark Pee Wee Herman movie where he's in treatment for alcoholism, and he wants them to direct it. And that's the pitch he's making because he wants to go darker. And he said he would do it, And they seem like they're on board. It just matter of getting money.
Wow.
But it sounds really interesting because he's like, I want to do a darker movie that's a darker comedy. And it was an interview he had recently. And he's apparently like it would take $15 million to make, according to him. He's got a donor that would make that would already contribute $10 million. It's just getting them on board and finding somebody to do it.
That is awesome.
But the idea would be him like in some type of either he's getting treated for alcoholism or he's like in some type of mental institution.
Yeah. Now, I think they've only wrote their own scripts though. So it would probably definitely have to they probably would have to
rewrite. It would probably never happen.
But that's interesting. I watched Pee-wee's Big Holiday and I was like, oh, that's fine.
But it'd be an interesting concept, I think, for him to go back as a character.
I watched Mel Brooks.
You've heard about that too.
Yeah.
Mel Brooks Unwrapped, HBO documentary on Mel Brooks. I can't remember the name of the documentarian. Like I should know. Alan Yentob. He's from the BBC, and apparently he has done like several features and different documentaries on him like over the years, because this starts out and it cuts between him talking to him and doing bits with him from like 30 years ago, or you know what I mean, or longer back. Yeah. And then they'll do like him in the 90s with him. But it's not super structured. It's pretty loose. I don't think it's like a phenomenal documentary. Like it isn't like he has like some grand vision. It is just this light, fun thing to watch. And you're watching Mel Brooks, so I definitely recommend it. It's only 60 minutes long too, I guess. I thought it was longer than that, but it was like just a fun thing to watch. Other than that, I watched Panic Room for the first time since high school.
David Fincher.
I was watching Amelie, I guess is how you pronounce it.
Yeah, Amelie.
On HBO, because it was going to go off this month. I've been so busy I didn't get back to it. And I fell asleep, whatever the night was before the first, when I was going to try to finish it and I had to do some work. I fell asleep and didn't wake up until after midnight.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to finish that. Was really enjoying it. And then I was watching Panic Room on Netflix, and I was also part of the way through that and watched it like previously. And so last night I was like, I need to finish something else to watch. I get on Netflix. They pulled it off Netflix on the first also, but it is on Crackle. I only had like 20 minutes left. Yeah. So
speaking of the Panic Room, because that's got Jared Leto in it, right?
Yes.
He's going to be Morbius.
Yeah.
Have y'all seen the trailer for Morbius?
Yeah.
And what was his name? Michael Keaton's at the end of the trailer.
Oh, yeah.
So it probably connected to the Spider-Man verse because he is his character.
No. He's playing Beetlejuice.
I would watch
Beetlejuice and Morbius.
He's playing a trick on him. He's like, you think I'm the Vulture, right?
At first, I thought the movie's
he's kind of having Jared Leto say Beetlejuice three times.
He was like, oh, there's this drink I want. Can you get it for me? I'm going to write it down for you, okay?
Yeah.
He's like, Beetlejuice? He's like, yeah, can you get me that? What's it called again? Beetlejuice?
Yeah.
And then it goes in the Beetlejuice theme, and he like, ha ha ha.
Jared Leto is Beetlejuice. Everybody's dream. Jared Leto's in that. Young Kristen Stewart.
Jodie Foster.
Forrest Whitaker.
Other news I forgot. Robert Rodriguez, he made that $7,000 movie. It's going to be on Tubi, the streaming channel.
Yeah, when is that coming out?
It said summer, so no date. Okay. But they're also going to have a series behind they made it. And that's cool. Just or he made a movie for $7,000. So I want to see the behind the scenes. I want to see the movie and the behind the scenes to see how much they actually made it for $7,000.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, well, we only spent $7,000, but we used my $100,000 red rig, but apparently it was the only crew were him and his son. So I think that'd be very instructive for indie filmmakers to see
for sure
how somebody that went his last film was Battle Angel Alita goes back to making a low budget movie.
That also had HBO, so I'll finally watch that.
Alita. It's okay. I forgot I even saw it last year.
Yeah.
We didn't even mention that in the.
I know. I thought about it. I thought about it because you had liked it.
In Glass, I forgot to mention Glass.
Yeah. But yeah, Panic Room was good. It visually, it feels like it's the one that starts solidifying
the Fincher vision,
the Fincher kind of look that he has been on. I didn't see Benjamin Button. That's the one I haven't seen of his.
I like Benjamin Button.
But as far as that kind of Fincher almost palette and style, it seems like he really starts solidifying it there. Story wise, I think he wrote this script. I don't know if he wrote it with somebody else. I don't really feel like it has much to say other than being like a sort of a thriller. Unlike Social Network and Gone Girl, like so many of those films have so much other things going on. They just feel so layered and deep. There's a lot of stuff to pull from them. This feels pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's good. It's a nice little movie, but definitely a lesser Fincher work, which
Well, you know,
which
like,
doesn't get talked about that much as far as filmography.
when people talk about Fincher, they talk about Seven, they talk about Fight Club.
Social Network,
Social
Gone
Network,
Girls, phenomenal. I love Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I've watched that quite a bit.
Zodiac.
Yeah, Zodiac. Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, man, I think that I just love the escalation of that. The music in Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Just really for some reason, I watched like the last hour and a half of that film a lot. The beginning of it, have you guys seen his version of it? Fincher's Girl with the Dragon Tattoo?
No.
Oh, you haven't seen that, William?
Is that the newest one?
No, I just kept like almost seeing
Oh,
it.
man, you need to see it.
Which one's that?
With Daniel Craig?
Okay, yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah. There's a rape scene in it. That rape scene is like one of the most brutal. Like my wife's like, I don't want to. And sometimes I'll watch that film and I'll have it on and I'll skip over that part. Like I've watched it once again, like in the past year, the whole movie. But like that, something about the way he stages stuff and does it, it just makes it so hard to watch. And that's the intent. You know what I mean? Like it's supposed to be brutal. And not that it's gratuitous, but that's the point of it. Like she's being violated. It's a terrible, I think it's the whole situation and everything around it. So that part, like now I will skip it past it. Or if I'm like just wanting to get a vibe and watch some of that film, I'll watch like the last hour and a half just because it is, or the last hour, because it is so long. But man, it is so good. I mean, Daniel Craig is awesome in it. Rooney Mara, like there's just some amazing stuff in it. We need to watch that soon. Especially being a Fincher film.
I know. I was like, I don't like the aesthetic of it, and
it's the music. I mean, it's Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross. Like, that film. I think I bought the soundtrack before the movie came out because I was so excited.
Where the movie just reminded me of Tech World.
No. Well, no, that's only like the first part of it though, because the first part they're in, is it Sweden or whatever? I know they're in the city. And really, the stuff you saw from the trailer is like very little.
I'm trying to remember. I think I've seen the original Swedish ones, like dubbed.
Yeah, so it's her character and Daniel Craig's, and it's basically these two storylines. Well, eventually, they end up working together on this mystery, and then once they get there, like part of the way through the film, maybe like 45 minutes or an hour, maybe an hour in, then you are in this like small little.
But I'm generally
island. You're in this small snowy island. Or the small island, so it's not like that at all. I mean, it is so good. And again, you like Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor.
Yeah, I mean, I like all the score stuff.
It is so good, yeah.
Yeah, so.
And I watch the SpongeBob movies with my daughter.
SpongeBob!
Yeah.
All right, so.
They're pretty good.
Is that all the stuff?
Yeah.
That's all I got.
So let's see. You think people should watch Girl with the Dragon Tattoo? Derek wants to watch Dragon Ball Z.
Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
I think if you have HBO, check out The Outsider. It's been a good series so far. It's funny because Jason Bateman directed the first 2 episodes, I think, and it kind of had a similar visual palette to Ozark, which he did on Netflix, which is an unrelated series. And Jason Bateman really went from being like a child actor that had a little bit of a turbulent patch to being like a solid comedic actor to then being like a dramatic actor and director. So he's really had like a good career progression. It's been interesting to follow.
I watched him talk with somebody. I don't know who does this series. Basically, that's what I watch during the day. Is I watch all these director series or like DGA Talks or Hollywood Reporter. But somebody, I don't know if it's Variety or what, but they had a series where he's talking to somebody else, and it might be what's his name? Barry.
Bill Hader.
I think it's him and Bill Hader, and they're just basically talking about directing and acting. because they're both similar in that way. And it's really good. And they're talking about their styles and why they do what they do and stuff. Yeah, it's awesome. There's so much good free content on YouTube of that stuff. It's just insane. And you could, I just spend so much time watching hours. The DGA things are like 3 hours a piece. And they do one of those every year. The Hollywood Roundtables, an hour a piece for each one. They have all these separate categories. That's like my favorite stuff that comes out every year. So.
Yep. So, to like the projects that we're working on, I'm assuming at some point the next month we'll probably be able to make an announcement. I'll share what that is.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember exactly where all that's at, but yeah, so we'll be able to talk about that. But because we're shooting one short mid-February and then another one early March, and we'll have more details on that. And then we'll try to get some behind the scenes. I'm not sure what all we can post ahead of that or if that becomes part of the project, but we'll see. Then there's other stuff we, probably be working on or talking about. So make sure you follow us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube for sure. All those places. Find everything at HBTVS.com. We have a merch store now, so you can buy a shirt. Like Sean's wearing a shirt. You can wear it to the local pizzeria and bully all the kids wearing that. And you can play the pinball and get the high score and then like point to your shirt. I don't know why.
They closed my local pizzeria, Angio's.
Oh.
They moved it. Apparently they moved it to like out by
pizza.
What is the what's the newer theater? Off 64. Yeah, I think it's out near that.
Okay, out by the big church.
Yeah.
Those bastards.
Yeah. Pizza. Eat pizza. I think Little Caesars delivers now.
Do they?
Julie was saying that she saw something about that. I don't know. Maybe it's like one of those dumb Grubhub things though, where it's.
I bet so. Yeah, it has to be.
They don't make any money.
I'm crazy. I got my own delivery bag to get my own crazy bread and stuff. But so we'll have follow all the stuff on hbtvs.com. Like I said, the episodes are monthly, so the plan is to have them come out the first Tuesday of each month. So some of these, depending on the timing, we may end up recording ones, beforehand and releasing at that time, but. We'll try and get some guests on at some point.
And maybe some other video content in the middle. Like
yeah.
I still have that. I've been so busy. That's why I haven't watched much stuff with work. But I have that Twin Peaks new box set.
Oh, yeah.
That I haven't opened because I'm like, hey, we'll do an unboxing or something. I haven't had time to watch anything. But I was like, maybe we'll do an unboxing and then I'll watch some of the discs because there's a 4K version of the pilot and a 4K version of season 3, episode 8.
So to watch.
So
everything that's in the box.
Yes, I'm going to watch everything. But, we can do an unboxing, then I can watch that and maybe talk about it and put it together as one little thing. And then,
Yep. So, like I said, just keep it out on hbts.com and follow us on all the social media accounts to see what we're doing. But that'll wrap up this episode. Thanks for listening.